Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063, The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
So I had a good night's sleep. My 3-month-old slept 8 hours last night.
Straight?
8 hours straight last night.
Wow.
I mean, it was great. I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning and I felt fresh and rejuvenated, and I was in such a great mood. And as I was in the car this morning, I was listening to my favorite morning show program, Robbie and Rexroad, with Paul Kaharski in the studio. And my morning took a sudden turn for the worse when Paul Kaharski came in this very studio, and said that the Tennessee Titans are not interested in Sam Darnold. Now, I know, the way that PK couched it was, hey, if the money were to come down, then they would be interested. But the idea of paying Sam Darnold like a legitimate starting quarterback, they are not interested in. Not even the $40 million range. They're not interested in. Let's keep in mind, Jordan Love is a $55 million quarterback. Tua is a $53 million quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, $55 million. Kyler Murray, $46 million. It's not like we're saying, hey, Sam Darnold's best quarterback ever at $40 million. I don't even know if that's when you take out the rookies, if that's in the top 15%. I don't know. So when I heard the news that the Titans aren't interested in signing Sam Darnold, I thought to myself, well, congratulations to Cam Ward, because it seems like the decision is made. If PK's reporting is accurate, and I'm not questioning PK's reporting, but I may question whether or not in lying season they're telling him the truth. If that's the case, your only other option is Cam Ward, which means no 2026 first rounder from the Giants and a trade back, no massive haul from the Jets or the Raiders, no Travis Hunter, no Abdul Carter, no anybody else, no getting back in the third round, at least using the first pick, because if you're out on Sam Darnold, you have to draft Cam Ward. There are two options for fixing the quarterback position. There is signing Sam Darnold, and there is drafting Cam Ward. And if you trade back, it's because somebody else is trading up to get Cam Ward. There is no cake in eating it too. And then there's the third option. Option 1, Darnold. Option 2, Ward. Option 3, stink. And I cannot imagine an organization with an owner as fickle as this one. I could not imagine them deciding to punt on 2025. And I know you'll tell me that, hey, there have been some teams that signed a guy to a 1-year prove-it deal, and they didn't expect to win a bunch of games, and they did. But that's what, again, would be the only positive scenario. It's not the likely scenario. It's the only positive scenario that would come of you signing Daniel Jones. Because if we're now in the Daniel Jones, Jameis Winston, Mac Jones, then let's start worrying about the 2026 draft. And I'm not one of these people, because people will tell you this, I'm not one of these people that believe that no team ever gives up on a season and tanks the year before it happens, because this would not be completely unprecedented. The Arizona Cardinals punted on the 2023 season. Now, they kind of had good reason. Their quarterback tore his ACL in December the previous year. The Cleveland Browns punted on 2016 because they wanted to be the money ball of football. And I don't know if we would say that the Dallas Cowboys punted last offseason, but after saying they were all in, pretty much they proved they were all out. It sure felt that way. So it is not unprecedented for an NFL team to sit back and say, you know what? We stink. And we're going to stink this year and go from there. But if their quarterback is not Sam Darnold and their quarterback is not Cam Ward, that is what they're doing. So if they're out on Darnold, then it's Ward. And I can accept that decision, even though I'm completely against it. I do not believe that Cam Ward will ever be good enough to compete with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and CJ Stroud and Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels and the rest of the top quarterbacks in the NFL on a consistent basis. This is something that we talked about, which was in order to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, you have to beat in 3 consecutive weeks Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes. And I don't think Cam Ward will ever be good enough to do that. And before you say, well, Sam Darnold's not good enough to do that, well, I don't understand. I'm not asking Sam Darnold to do that. I'm asking Sam Darnold to get me to about 8, 9, 10 wins. But I will say this. If you choose to go this route, which again, to me, there's only 2 real options, Darnold or Ward. If you're Chad Brinker and you're Mike Borgonzi and you choose to go this route, your entire careers will be tied to Cam Ward. And Cam Ward better be a star. Every single one of these draft gurus that comes out and says, oh, he wouldn't have been in the top 6 quarterbacks last year. Oh, Ward's the best in this class, but he's not a high-end quarterback prospect. And there are a lot of them. Every single one of those guys better be wrong. Or else you'll be in the same spot Ran Carthon and John Robinson are. John Robinson won and still can't get a job. So you think you go in there, you take Cam Ward with the first pick, he stinks, you're going to be able to keep your job or ever get another job? Sorry. And the public is not going to care that this is a weak quarterback draft. People have already overhyped Cam Ward to the point that I feel like he's viewed by the public as a prospect differently than he's viewed by, again, the people inside the league. Matt Miller talked to league insiders, had him rank all the quarterbacks where he had them going in the draft. He had Cam Ward behind Bo Nix and ahead of Michael Penix. He had him 18th of 21 out of the quarterbacks drafted in the first round since 2020. That means behind Zach Wilson, behind Anthony Richardson, behind Trey Lance. So they are going to expect Cam Ward, talking about the fans, they are going to expect Cam Ward to compete with Patrick Mahomes and compete with Josh Allen and compete with Lamar Jackson and compete with CJ Stroud. And they better be doing it by year 2. Because if they're not doing it by year 2, people aren't patient. Call Indianapolis and ask them how long it takes everybody to sour on your quarterback. Even the quarterback Indianapolis drafted, whom everybody said before you drafted him, you have to be patient with. So if PK is right, if Paul Kaharski's right, and the Titans are not interested in Sam Darnold, and their only real viable choice is Cam Ward, then the decision is made. Well, we haven't gotten into all that yet. We haven't had the 30 visit. We haven't had the pro day. We haven't had the... Jameis Winston is not an option to win. There are 2 choices. And if you've decided you're out on Darnold, then you have to be in on Ward. And the only way to get Cam Ward is with the number 1 pick. So again, I woke up in a great mood today, great spirits. And then PK went on Robbie and Rexroad. And he said the Titans aren't interested in Sam Darnold. And I thought, goodbye extra draft picks. Goodbye Travis Hunter. Goodbye Abdul Carter. Goodbye Matthew Golden, the guy I really, really love. Goodbye Giants trade. Goodbye Jets trade. Goodbye Raiders trade. And now we go forward with a rookie quarterback. And not just a rookie quarterback, not just any rookie quarterback, but a rookie quarterback who couldn't win the crappy ACC and who is rated by league people as worse than Bo Nix was this time last year coming out of college. Just feels like the Titans can never get it right. No matter who they hire as the general manager, who they hire as the coach, they just seem to never be able to get it right. So if Paul's reporting is correct and the Tennessee Titans are out on Sam Darnold, their only option is Cam Ward, because the third option is to lose. And that does not fly with this owner. 615-737-1025. That's how we're starting today's show. Again, the Paul Karski Report. The Titans are not interested at all in Sam Darnold unless the asking price is very low, which if the asking price is low, he's not going to pick the Titans. I do have to say, Paul wrote in his piece that, well, the Titans could go with Mac Jones or Jameis Winston at quarterback next year. That's how we're starting. 615-737-1025. Plus, if you're not going to get the extra picks, because again, you have to use the first pick on Cam Ward. If you're not going to get the extra picks and you're not going to be active in free agency, they've demonized it. What exactly is the plan for building a team around Cam Ward? We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 105 The Game.
Titans aren't going to be players for Sam Darnold. If he was a shorter term, cheaper option, sure. But as long as he's going to be a long-term, high-dollar commitment for somebody, it's not going to be them.
Let's just lay it out the way we laid it out for Titans fans. So you have a choice, and it's just all things being – here's your choice. Your quarterback for the next few years is Sam Darnold or it's Cam Ward. You're choosing Cam Ward.
No, I'm choosing neither.
Okay, so you just want a crappy quarterback.
I don't want a crappy quarterback.
Who's your quarterback?
It's some stopgap. It's a combination of Levis and
oh my god
and Mac Jones.
This is really inspiring.
Jameis Winston. I'm not here to inspire. I'm here to tell you what's going to happen.
I want you to run a team.
No, be a cheerleader. I want Titans.com.
That was Kaharski this morning on the show. And again, I wish Joe would have shut up for about 5 seconds there, simply because, like, that is newsworthy stuff. And instead, Joe gets Paul going down the rabbit of the, I'm not going to be a cheerleader. I'm not going to. And it's like, look, I like Paul yelling and screaming and bitching as much as anybody else. But at the same time, like, this is like some pretty serious stuff here. So Paul's telling you, like, again, we've always talked about this, the difference between I'm telling you and I'm telling you. Like, I'm telling you, I think Sam Darnold's pretty good. I'm telling you, they're not going to sign Sam Darnold. So it's Sam Darnold or Cam Ward. And Paul's like, or you can run it back with Will Levis and try to go get a stopgap in Mac Jones or Jameis Winston. Here's what Paul wrote at his site at paulkaharski.com. The exact quote: I believe the Titans, if they pass on Ward and Sanders, who seem less attractive to them, talking about Sanders, are prepared for a worst-case scenario where they sign a stopgap player like Mac Jones or Jameis Winston at quarterback and go with him and Levis for 2025. In that scenario, they'd be spending draft capital and financial resources on a long list of other needs, topped by edge rusher, right tackle, guard, and receiver, and also includes safety, tight end, and inside linebacker. So basically, you're trying to tell me that the Titans have decided, screw it. Let's wing it at quarterback this year, because we got to figure out guard. Well, they did take a guard with the 11th overall pick. So I then would have to ask this. What is the plan for building around Cam Ward? I cannot subscribe to the idea, with Amy Adams Strunk as the owner, that Mike Borgonzi is stupid enough to think that he's going to have some serious time to build this football team. Let's use Arizona as an example, because Arizona did tank in 2023. They packed it in. Remember, they traded their first-round draft choice and moved back because they wanted to get more assets for the future, so they didn't take the player they loved in Will Anderson. Instead, they got Paris Johnson, and they rebuilt, and Kyler Murray came back in December, and they didn't make the playoffs this year. So Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenford are going into year 3. No playoffs. 1 year that was terrible. Last year that was average-ish. Does Mike Borgonzi think that's going to fly here? They stink in 25. They don't make the playoffs in 26 because they tanked in 25 and didn't get quarterback figured out. So now you're going into 2027. You've had 5 straight years of missing the playoffs and you're opening a new stadium. Boy, that'll work. That sounds like a good idea. So I cannot buy the idea that the Titans are actually going to pass on Cam Ward with the pick that they have if they're also going to pass on paying Sam Darnold because they feel better off running Will Levis back out there at quarterback. I don't get it. I mean, again, I'm trying to figure out, how do you build around Cam Ward? Because if you use the first pick on Ward, you have no subsequent picks outside of 35. Cam Ward is going to be on a team that will have a hole at wide receiver, which you could fill in free agency to say, okay, we filled it. But none of these guys that are out there, whether it's Christian Kirk or Devontae Adams or all these guys that have been released lately, none of these guys are game changers. So you would have, again, Ridley and Christian Kirk. Great. But again, you need a young, good impact receiver. There are options at tackle, But it sounds like you don't want to spend the money. So Dan Moore Jr. of the Steelers is probably $20 million and is certainly not a $20 million player, but that's how free agency works. He's out. They say it's a deep draft for edge rushers, but you only have one other pick in the top 100, and you're going to get rid of Harold Landry, and you're probably going to get rid of Arden Key. So how do you do this? How do you, again, without the extra haul of trading the picks, having to use the first pick on the quarterback, how do you get rid of both edge rushers, draft one to replace him, sign a left or a right tackle, sign an inside backer? They're going to go get probably Nick Bolton from the Chiefs because Borgonzi loves the Chiefs, and we need culture guys, and so we're going to – how do you build this around Cam Ward so that you can actually have a good football team on the field? Or – and this goes back to my original question, which is, do you just not care about winning games this season? And maybe it's harder for me to conceptualize a Cam Ward plan than it was the Darnold plan because I had the extra picks to work with and I was so hell-bent on signing Darnold, and I haven't done the math specifically on a Ward plan. But I need a plan better than, well, we'll just take Cam Ward and figure it out from there. Because I think that plan is like a fan on Twitter's plan. That plan is ripe for failure. We're just going to take Cam Ward. We're going to have one other top 100 pick at 35. And and we're not going to overpay in free agency because we learned last year free agency, bad. So how is Cam Ward going to not suck? He's throwing to Ridley and nobody else? This is going to be the fourth year in a row where they've relied on Chig Okonkwo for a quarterback. Good luck. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com at 615-737-1025. Adam in Portland. Kick us off today. Go ahead. Thank you for waiting. Go.
Well, it took the Cam or the Jared Goff pick to fix our team the first time and make us competitive. It's going to take the same thing with the Cam Ward pick, in my opinion. And what are the chances? And I told Ian, what are the chances that they're lying to PK? Like this is a move by saying we're not interested in him because obviously that would make everybody think what you think is that it's going to be Ward, and maybe we could get this thing done in the next week. I don't know. I don't know how quickly you'd want to get out of that first pick, but maybe it's just a move, dude. I can't imagine them going ahead and showing their cards that they're not interested in him right now. It seems stupid unless it's a move of some sort. So I don't know.
So I'll just put it to you like this. Again, everybody seems to have walked out of the combine. Thank you, Adam. And I did hear you arguing with PK this morning, and I actually thought it was pretty good because PK was like, do you think you're getting the Minnesota Darnold, or do you think you're getting somebody else? And I'm like, I think that I'm getting 14, because Adam was yelling at Paul. Do I feel like I'm getting 14 wins next season if I add Sam Darnold? No. Do I think I've got competence at the quarterback position? Yes. There is a big difference between the two. But again, when it comes to like, hey, maybe there's some sort of special secret super duper move, or even using the comparison that Adam had with the Jared Goff trade, you had a quarterback. Like, you were able to make the trade because you had a quarterback. You drafted him second overall the year before. In fact, I think that if you use the first pick, I'm glad Adam asked this because now it has popped into my head. If you use that first pick on Cam Ward and say, we'll figure out the rest later, it will be exactly what happened to Mariota, which it's Mariota, a young tackle, and a terrible team. That's exactly what you will have. And you know what that led to? Number one pick the next year. And everybody got fired. And if you get the number one pick next year, Amy's going to fire everybody. Like, there is no way they can be as bad as they were last year and that Amy will say, nope, Chad Branker's doing a good job. There's no way. Then again, I say there's no way. She does a lot of crazy stuff, so make of that what you will. 615-737-1025. A lot of you want to weigh in on this. Again, PK is reporting that the Titans are not interested in Sam Darnold at that price, which means they're not interested in Sam Darnold. And the second part of this is PK thinks Will Levis may be part of the equation next year. Got a thought on that? We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025. And then, of course, we are to your phones, as we always are here on our program at Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
I think transparency is always best. I was very, very open with Will that we're all in this position because none of us were good enough, myself included. He was a part of that, but it wasn't just his fault either. And that's what I mean, that nobody was good enough. When you win 3 games, it's hard to pin it all on one person.
Yeah.
We have to do a lot of things better. But I did tell him that at minimum, there's going to be competition. And I can't answer what that looks like at this moment.
Don't know. Just be prepared.
And I told him, and my job is to continue to coach.
Yeah.
And I'm coaching Will as hard as I can coach him. He's going to do things to get himself better. And ultimately, like any competitor, just control what you can control, come back ready to go and be ready to compete. And you never know in this league when you get another opportunity. So let's say we end up taking a quarterback. There's no guarantee that he's going to play 17 games. And so God forbid you enter a game and not be prepared to perform again. So that's what you hope for. That's what players have to do. You got to be ready to go play. And Will just needs to worry about what he needs to worry about, and don't focus on anything other than you getting better. And I think that usually is a pretty good process.
There you go. That was Brian Callahan last week at the Combine on Sirius XM NFL Radio. And he was saying, hey, Will Levis, I'm not ready to completely throw that book out. And even when I heard it, I was like, well, that just sounds nice. And then PK said today, Will Levis is in the mix next season. Again, I think the writing at paulkaharski.com is if the Titans pass on Ward or Sanders, and by the way, it's not Ward or Sanders, it's Ward. He's the guy. If they pass on Ward, then they are prepared for a worst-case scenario where they sign a stopgap player like Mac Jones or Jameis Winston and go with him and Levis at quarterback in 2025. Okay. I don't feel like kicking Will Levis down today because Will Levis he's not important to me. Like last year at the Super Bowl, I waited through 3 hours of that stupid ping pong tournament to sit down with him for 10 minutes because he mattered last year. He doesn't matter now. Will Levis is not an important part of the equation. And if they draft Cam Ward, they absolutely cannot have Will Levis on the team. And I kept talking about Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker when they would run the team, and I would put them together because they talked about how aligned they were. And I always felt like if I called out both Brinker and Carthon, because we didn't know who was in charge, which of course is just so Titans, but I felt like, okay, if I call them both out and I want them both fired, then you can't call me racist. Because that was what people said when I said, hey, it's time to clean house. And I'm sorry, Rand Carthon and Vrabel, but you both got to go. And it was, you're a racist. And I was like, oh, God. So I would just say, hey, Carthon and Brinker. And by their actions last year, I kept saying, these guys don't know ball. And everyone said, oh, they know ball, Jared. They know ball. I mean, do they? Taking an injured player from the Chiefs, that blew up in their face. Do they? Rolling in with Will Levis and having no plan B, saying, oh no, Mason Rudolph, he's going to be the backup quarterback. If they knew ball, then the idea of Will Levis being on the team next year would not exist. But it absolutely would not exist if they draft Cam Ward, because you're going to want a veteran quarterback who knows the system and can help be kind of a quasi-coach / mentor for Cam Ward. And I bet it's somebody like Brandon Allen, who was Joe Burrow's backup in Cincinnati, that knows the system, has spent time with Callahan, can kind of help translate things for Cam Ward. Carson Wentz, who was the backup last year in Kansas City, where Borgonzi's from. But it won't be Levis. And they would not want Levis around Ward, and I would not want Levis around Ward. But this idea that the Titans are going to go with Mac Jones and Will Levis at quarterback is freaking ridiculous. This is going to waste a year of our lives. There's no way they're going to do that. So, look, I'm not doubting PK's reporting, but oh my God, if that happens, holy crap. One texter into the text line, our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One texter says, is there any credence to the talk about obtaining Brock Purdy? It seems insanely and foolish and unrealistic to me. That's from JP in Spring Hill. Let me say this when it comes to the Brock Purdy stuff. If San Francisco trades Brock Purdy, who's going to be their quarterback? I mean, the only reason they still have their jobs is because they lucked out on Brock Purdy. They spent 3 first-round draft choices on Trey Lance. They basically lit those 3 first-round draft choices on fire for Trey Lance. And the only reason they lived to talk about it was because they kept going to the NFC title game with Brock Purdy at quarterback. And you mean to tell me they're going to go in a different direction? Now, I can't completely rule it out simply because Shanahan has done some things at the quarterback position that make you go, wait a minute, what? For instance, I think there was a story that Kyle Shanahan was so convinced going into his first year in San Francisco that he would sign Kirk Cousins in 2018 that they didn't do any homework on the 2017 quarterbacks, even though they had the 2nd overall pick in the draft. Well, Patrick Mahomes has beaten them in 2 Super Bowls. So maybe they should have done a little homework on the quarterbacks in the draft. So I don't know. Maybe Shanahan will do something stupid. Shanahan did something stupid then. He did something stupid when he spent the 3 first-round draft picks for Trey Lance. And everybody says, and I don't know if this is true or not, but everybody says that Shanahan really made that trade because he wanted Mac Jones. And then he panicked when all the draft analysts were saying, Mac Jones isn't that good. One texter says, what does getting a quarterback do to give you 7 or 8 wins next year, besides put you out of the running for a top pick next year? Bo Nix wasn't really considered one of the top quarterbacks coming out last year, and he's turned out pretty well. It's always a gamble taking a quarterback at the top of the draft, but what else would you do if you're Tennessee with that pick? Hopefully the first pick doesn't come around for you very often, but whatever you do, you better make it work. I don't know what to take away from that text message other than my plan is to sign Sam Darnold, and then we're trading the pick, and then we're going to trade it again, and then we're going to get Matthew Golden with like the 7th or 8th pick, and we're going to bomb the ball to Ridley and bomb the ball to Golden. We're going to run it with Tony Pollard, and we're going to sign Dan Moore from the Steelers, and the rest of the team's going to be built on defense. That would be my plan. Again, apparently they don't like that. Apparently they want Mac Jones. One texter says, Mac Jones is now what Sam Darnold was before he got to the Vikings. There's no guarantee Darnold will be as good next season. I think people need to understand something when it comes to Darnold and the Vikings. That wasn't like a lucky coincidence. That wasn't like Sam Darnold went to a team like an Alabama quarterback or a Georgia quarterback, like Jake Fromm at Georgia. That wasn't the team he went to. That was a 7-win football team in 2023. Kirk Cousins was 4-4 with that team. If it was such a stacked team, Josh Dobbs would have won some football games there at quarterback. But it wasn't. Sam Darnold is responsible for Minnesota winning a fair share of 14 games last year. You don't do that on accident. Just like it wasn't a fluke that Baker Mayfield performed well in Tampa Bay once he got away from the morons in Cleveland and Carolina. We had a caller yesterday that called in and was like, I just think Sam Darnold got lucky. And Matthew Caller, who covers the Vikings, was waiting to come on the show, heard it, and said in the interview we did with him yesterday, he's like, he didn't get lucky. Also, he was 4-2 as a starter at Carolina. Gentry wrote a great column at the Tennessean in which he talked about, because Gentry and I were talking at the time about, did you see what Darnold did in Carolina? And he wrote a great column about that. I've studied Mac Jones's career, and I'll say this, Mac Jones, if you've got a good team, I think there's something there with Mac Jones. I do. Mac Jones has never won 14 games in a season. What are we doing? He made the playoffs one time. They got housed by 50 points, and then Belichick screwed him up. Unbelievable. One texter says, Jared, as a Steeler fan, I hope you're kidding that you want Dan Moore Jr. on the Titans. If you thought Andre Dillard was bad, Dan Moore makes him look like Bruce Matthews. Again, Dan Moore, according to the free agent board.
That seems a bit extreme.
That he's Andre Dillard?
Yeah.
Dan Moore gave up 12 sacks last year, which I don't like, but he also only gave up 3 QB hits. I mean, he's 27 years old. He's not Probably an average left tackle in the NFL. They're going to have to pay like a top left tackle, but that's just how free agency works. That's just, again, I just want to get a real left tackle. And this guy has started for 4 years on a playoff team at left tackle. So I cannot imagine that Andre Dillard could play left tackle for a playoff team for 4 years. Could be wrong, but I kind of doubt it. One texter says, I'm confused on how you thought they would build around Darnold compared to Ward. All of a sudden, they move off of Darnold, and you're talking about how you don't know how they'll fill the holes. Well, the pick that they would use to fill a lot of the holes long term is now going to have to be used on the quarterback. You can't use, again, we talk about the Giants and trading back to 3, and I think there's a chance you could trade back to 3 and trade the pick again. But if you trade with the Giants, you're surely getting a second rounder in this year's draft, and you're getting a first rounder next year, and you're getting well, you can't do any of that if you don't go with Sam Darnold, because you have to go with Cam Ward, and the only way that you get Cam Ward is by using the first pick on Cam Ward. One texter says it's hard to understand PK's argument that the Titans would punt on addressing the quarterback after hiring a new general manager. So to that, this is not PK's argument. This is PK's report. And those are two different things. Now, one texter, and we've had many texts into the text line, basically saying, do you buy PK's reporting? I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical because it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to me. But a lot of the things the Titans do doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, does it make any sense to you that the Titans hired Rand Carthon to be the general manager? Rand Carthon hired Chad Brinker to be his top lieutenant. And then within a year, Chad Brinker gets promoted above Rand Carthon. Rand Carthon gets fired for not doing a good enough job. And now Chad Brinker's in charge. Does that make any sense to anybody? No, but they did it. So who knows? 615-737-1025, former Titans receiver Chris Sanders. Look at his thoughts on the Titans being out on Sam Darnold and where they go from here. We'll do that next. Stillman & Company, 1025-1063 the game. And let me tell all the fine folks out there, do tune in later today to 94.9 The Fan for Vandy Baseball. As the Commodores host St. Bonaventure, pregame is at 4:15, first pitch at 4:30, and coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at theGameNashville.com. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I'm in a good mood. Well, I'm really not, but let's give something away anyways. Be caller 5 at 615-737-1025, and you'll win a pair of tickets to see Stained and Breaking Benjamin at Bridgestone Arena on Sunday, April 27th. So Paul Kaharski today at paulkaharski.com reports the Titans are out on Sam Darnold. They're also out on Aaron Rodgers, according to PK's reporting. Quote, I believe the Titans, if they pass on Ward and Sanders, who seem less attractive to them, are prepared for a worst-case scenario where they sign a stopgap player like Mac Jones or Jameis Winston at quarterback and go with him and Will Levis for 2025. Chris Sanders joins us now on the program, former Titans receiver. Chris, what do you make of that? The Titans are out on Darnold. And I say, okay, well, then they have to draft Ward. And he says they might not draft Ward. They might go with Jameis Winston and Will Levis next year. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I know just watching Jameis Winston in the Super Bowl, he's going to bring a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm. But at the end of the day, I know he does some good things. I know he throws for 500 yards and 400 yards at one time. But then all of a sudden he throws 4 and 5 interceptions. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Chris, do you actually buy that report from Paul, or do you think that could be some media manipulation and playing the cards close to the vest? And do you really think there's a chance that the Titans go into training camp next year with Mac Jones and with Will Levis at quarterback next year?
I mean, they're thinking about it. I think they're just probably maybe throwing some smoke because they may not say they don't want Ward and might not want Shadeur Sanders. But at the end of the day, it's just throwing a lot of smoke screens so they can do what they need to do. But at the end of the day, you better get somebody in here that's going to make your team better. And if you draft in the first round, you get a quarterback like Ward or Shadeur Sanders, you better make sure he's a Pro Bowler. You better make sure he's a Hall of Famer because I'm telling you, this pick that they're having right now is going to be so important.
So let me get to Ward here because, again, the way I was raised was if you don't have a quarterback, you have to get the quarterback. If you're not going to sign Sam Darnold, then you have to draft Cam Ward. For me, it's as simple as that. Do you think that the Titans, if they use the first pick on Cam Ward, will have enough resources? They don't have a third-round pick. They won't get the extra picks from the Giants. They won't get any future first-rounders. Do you think they'll have enough to be able to support Cam Ward?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to because you're going to have a young quarterback that's going to have to learn a different system, learn so many things about leading a team, being a leader, doing all these things. But you got to have a good support system. You got to have a good offensive line. If you look at the offensive line was pretty bad last year. So now you got to up-beef that. Then now you got to get some more playmakers. I know we have Calvin Ridley. I know we have, Pollard and all those guys. But you got to get a supporting cast that makes your quarterback better. We need some receivers. We maybe need another running back. We got to get a right offensive tackle. We have to make sure that you put, Cam Ward in a position to be successful, and it's going to be so important that they do that.
Do you think they actually have the resources, though, to be able to do that?
I mean, I don't know if they have the resources, but they're going to have to do something. I mean, you're going to have to get not just some players on this team. You have to get some impact players. And if you look at the Tennessee Titans team on offense, let's just start with the offense. Look at the impact players they had. Calvin Ridley was one of them. Pollard was one of them. And that's all basically you had on offense. Then, and I think that if you're going to make your quarterback successful, you got to make sure you have a good supporting cast around him.
Chris, what do you make of this fact this idea that has come out of the combine, which is Cam Ward rising, Shadeur Sanders falling, when Shadeur Sanders didn't throw a single pass and Cam Ward didn't throw a single pass?
I know. I mean, they're going by interviews, and I know interviews are really, really good. You get a taste of, what you want with your team. Can he come in and lead? Get an idea of his background and understand how he ticks. But at the end of the day, nobody rise and nobody fell because of the combine. I mean, they didn't do anything. All they did was sit on the sidelines and talk to people. And Cam Ward was on the side throwing passes to a tight end. But at the end of the day, I think when those two guys are going to start jockeying for position is when they do the individual workouts. When you do the individual workouts and the teams and the coaches can feel what he does, how can he take coaching? How can he take criticism? that's when those guys are going to start jockeying position. Yeah, we talking about the combine that Cam Ward is rising. That's just cute candy and cute say so. But when they start getting to the individual workouts, then now you're going to start to see who's jockeying for position.
Do you think Shadeur Sanders, Chris Sanders is with us in the program, do you think Shadeur Sanders regrets not throwing at the combine when Jackson Dart, who was probably his closest competition for QB2, did throw at the combine, and a lot of people supposedly came away very impressed with him?
Man, Dart, man, he was throwing some dimes. I was talking to TD, and we was kind of discussing, the quarterback situation. When you talk about Dart, man, he was throwing some straight up dimes, and he was throwing it to where, the ball placement was good, the timing was good. So now you got Shadeur, who didn't throw. And I'm not saying he's behind the 8 ball, but you got the other quarterback that went out there and displayed his talent. And everybody knows what Shadeur did at Colorado. Absolutely, he did fantastic. But when you're having teams and having general managers that are having question marks on some of the things you do, if I'm a quarterback and I'm in his position, I'm going to go in the combine to answer those questions that they need to be answered.
Last one for you, Chris Sanders, our guest. I am in love with Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Texas. I mean, and my big thing with Matthew Golden is not just that he ran fast at the combine. What was it, 4.29 that he ran at the combine? That's not just the reason that I love him. When I watch Texas, and I never sat down to watch like Texas tape for any of these players, but I watched Texas enough because Texas played, 6 or 7 big college football games last year. When I watched Texas play, he'd pop in all the games I'd watch. I think he is a top 10 pick in this year's draft. I would like to trade back twice and pick him at 7 or pick him at 8 or something like that. I absolutely love him. Am I going overboard?
Yep. No, you're not going overboard, because here's the thing. When you talk about a receiver with his speed, we always talk about a guy being fast. That's great. But tell me what he does as a receiver. And the one thing I love about he does a receiver is he has a game plan. Watch what he does at the line of scrimmage. Watch what he does at the top of the route. Watch what he does when he's running every individual route. And just watching him, and me and TD talked about this off the air, he has the suddenlies. When I talk about the suddenlies, is he's running full speed and he suddenly stops. You can't teach that. And when you have a cat that has that type of speed, that type of yards after the catch, that type of explosiveness, and he can start and stop it on a dime, that just shows you that he's just going to make your offense better. I love him. He may not be as big as some of the wide receivers, but I'm going to tell you, in this draft, this is just my opinion, he's one of the more explosive and more polished wide receivers that you're going to see in this draft.
Okay, what did you run at the combine?
I think I ran 4.39. They got it wrong on the thing. I ran 4.39, but then in my individual workout, I ran 4.21. So I'm kind of fast.
4.21.
Yes, in my individual workouts.
TD, isn't that what Xavier Worthy ran last year? 4.21. I mean, I will say this: Chris Sanders was a bad boy. So I running by everybody. So there is. I mean, at least there's some proof on the field of you doing that. But at your size, how much did you weigh?
I wanted to weigh like 180, 179.
If you were running 4.21 at 180, you would have gone like number 3 overall.
No, Tom. Individual workouts, man. That they did it hand time. It was 4.21, but in the combine it was 4.39. So, dude, I can go, man. You got to turn on the tape, man. I could go.
I know you. 4.39 is still getting somewhere. Speed. Chris Sanders, as always, on the program. Chris, appreciate you, bud.
Appreciate you, bro. Bye-bye.
We're talking about 4.39 like it's not fast. I mean, 4.39. A.J. Brown was 4.49, and A.J. Brown's fast. 615-737-1025. Again, I woke up this morning and was just in such a good mood. And then PK went on the morning show and said the Titans are out on Sam Darnold and that the Titans are thinking more Jameis Winston and Will Levis, Mac Jones and Will Levis at quarterback. I got one obvious thought that I've got to get to on this. We'll do it next. Stillman & Company, 105 the game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. So the report today from Paul Kaharski was that the Titans are out on Sam Darnold at, again, the $40 million range. Paul writes, I believe that the Titans pass on Ward and Sanders, who seem less attractive to them. They are prepared for a worst-case scenario where they sign a stopgap player like Mac Jones or Jameis Winston at quarterback and go with him and Levis for 2025. In that scenario, they'd be spending draft capital and financial resources on a long list of other needs like edge rusher, right tackle, and guard, and receiver, and also include safety, tight end, and inside backer. And when I first heard that, I thought, oh, no, like I used to on draft night when the Titans drafted J.C. Latham. But I'll say this. If it's not that, that means they're drafting Cam Ward. I wouldn't do it, but again, we probably see things differently. That's okay. If they decide Cam Ward is Joe Burrow, then you take Joe Burrow. But again, Paul's saying, hey, maybe not even Ward and Sanders. It's really more Mac Jones and Jameis Winston. So let me say this. I am not questioning Paul Kaharski's reporting that the Titans aren't interested in Sam Darnold, but I think the Titans might be lying to Paul. And this is something that we have to remember about this time of the year. Jordan Raynon at ESPN.com covers the Giants. And he wrote before the combine that the Giants had their sights set on Shadeur Sanders. And I read that and said, okay, that means they like Cam Ward. And then the sentiment everybody got at the combine was the Giants want to trade to number 1 for Cam Ward. At least that's what all the talk is. But there are 3 things in particular that have led me to this conclusion that I kind of think the Titans are lying to Paul. Number 1, Paul said on the morning show today that if the Titans trade the first pick, they want a future first-round pick in return. And it was very specific with how Paul said it, which was maybe they'll move back further with the Jets or the Raiders because they really want a first-round pick in next year's draft. A very specific demand that I don't think Paul made up on his own. I don't think Paul's just saying out of nowhere, they want a first rounder next year if they move off the number 1 pick. Sounds to me like they told Paul, if we move off the first pick, we want a first rounder next year. So I definitely think they're telling the truth. Number 2, what did I say before the combine? I said, if I ran the Titans, what would everybody think leaving the combine? Everybody would think that I love Cam Ward. Because if you want to call me with a serious offer for number 3, number 6, number 7, you have to think you're paying full price for a franchise quarterback and not be able to bank on either him falling to you, New York at 3, or bank on, you know what, Tennessee's desperate to trade out because they don't like the quarterback, so we'll be able to get this for pennies on the dollar. We'll be able to get this. We don't have Cam Ward graded as high as we had the other guys graded. We know they don't have him as high as they have him graded, so we'll be able to do this for a 3rd rounder this year and a 2nd rounder next year, and let's go make the pick. And so if I were in the Titans' shoes, what I'd be telling everybody is, we love Cam Ward. I don't even want Shadeur Sanders a part of the equation if I'm the Titans, because if there's 2 guys that are of equal value, if this were C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, or if this were last year where there were 3 guys at the very, very top of the draft, the Giants could say, well, we'll just wait on one of those 2 guys and take them. No. I don't want you to think Sanders is part of the equation. That's why I'm like, everybody slow your roll on Jackson Dart. Might be very, very good, but I don't want that. Be bad-mouthing Jackson Dart to Mel Kiper and Todd McShay and all those guys. And then the third reason of why I really just don't trust that the Titans are out on Sam Darnold is because Mike Borgonzi is Mr. Kansas City. And this is Kansas City's playbook. And for right now, and you know how the Titans work, you might be in charge today. You will not be in charge tomorrow if you don't win. And even if you do win, she still might fire you the way she fired John Robinson. But remember, Robinson was in, and then he wasn't. Vrabel was in, and then he wasn't. Rand was in, and then he wasn't. So for right now, Borgonzi is in, and he is Mr. Kansas City. And what did Kansas City do? Kansas City looked at a draft that wasn't very strong at quarterback and said, okay, let's pay less pick-wise for a legitimate starting quarterback and build our team around that guy. And then eventually, once we've built our team, let's find the guy we really love and draft him. Sam Darnold was willing to be that guy last year for J.J. McCarthy, just like Alex Smith was for Patrick Mahomes. And now you're going to tell me that Mr. Kansas City is going to abandon the Kansas City playbook? In fact, just follow the way he talks about Alex Smith. This was Borgonzi at his press conference when asked, and again, Jim Wyatt, just like I think most Titans fans, probably jumped right to conclusions with Mahomes. This is what Borgonzi said about how important solidifying the quarterback position is going to be for the Titans.
You know, we weren't really winning there at the beginning. You know, we had a 2-14 season in 2012, had the first pick of the draft in 2013. So a little bit similar to kind of where I'm stepping in here now. But yeah, you know, we built that thing from the ground up, and you know, it was really just, you know, being here and drafting guys and developing them. So, you know, it was a process to get to where we were right now. But, you know, when we first started out there, you know, we were, like I said, we were 2-14 at one point. So,
okay, so we're just talking about, man, we were bad in Kansas City too. And then when you think solidify the quarterback position, you probably think that means Mahomes. But this is what Borgonzi said the day after he got hired on the midday show when talking about how they solidified the position in Kansas City.
You know, we were able to solidify the quarterback position that year with Alex Smith. We ended up trading for him in San Francisco. So those are the things we had to do first. I mean, number one was solidify the quarterback position, and then start building the guy with, you know, the roster with culture guys, and started identifying those type of players.
So here is the Alex Smith of this year. Is Sam Darnold, Patrick Mahomes, or Josh Allen, or Joe Burrow? No. But was Alex Smith Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Aaron Rodgers? No. But that didn't stop Kansas City from saying, hey, let's build this thing around him. Let's get this guy in here. Let's solidify the quarterback position, and then let's build our team. So now you mean to tell me that, again, Mr. Kansas City, Borgonzi never shuts up talking about Kansas City. You mean to tell me Mr. Kansas City is now going to go away from the Kansas City playbook and roll the dice with Mac Jones? Again, in a place where the volatile owner will kick your ass out of any decision-making after a year. Brian Callahan was empowered last year as the coach to collaborate, to be a part of building the roster. And now he's so far down the team's depth chart in terms of decision makers. Again, everything with this team's a one-year deal. And you think he's going to back off that? Mr. Kansas City? So again, I'm sure Paul is telling the truth. And a reporter's job is to report. By the way, Paul's pissed off because he's blowing my phone up right now. But a reporter's job is to report. So if Mike Borgonzi tells Paul, yeah, Paul, we're really not interested in going with Sam Darnold. We just don't think he's very good. Maybe we go with him if he's going to take a contract at $20 million a year, but we're not going to do it if he's going for $40 million a year, which again, $40 million is $15 million less than Jordan Love. And right now, Sam Darnold is better than Jordan Love. So if that is the way you're going, I have a hard time believing it in the middle of lying season. I will go to the hill on the Sam Darnold, Jordan Love thing. Maybe tomorrow at 4:00. Who knows? Again, I'm not questioning PK's ability to report. Paul is a good reporter. Not knocking that. But this is lying season. And the other thing teams do this time of the year is they float things out there. They want to see how their fan bases will react to certain news, to see if the fans will be okay with it or if the fans won't be okay with it. So how do you do this? You float out there, hey, we're thinking about rolling with Will Levis and Jameis Winston next year. What do you think, fans? And again, I just have a hard time believing that the Titans, there's one guy on the market. And you mean to tell me that the Titans are completely out of the one guy? That all these dreams of trading back, Chad Brinker wanting, what was it? 10 picks in the top 100 of the next 3 drafts is going to sit there and use the first overall pick on a quarterback? Or he might not do that, but roll with Jameis Winston? I don't buy it. That Mike Borgonzi, with a mirror image of what happened to them in Kansas City, is going to pass on Alex Smith with as much as they love Alex Smith? Don't buy it. So I do buy that that's what Paul was told. I do not buy that that is necessarily the truth. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025 here on the program. And there's another kind of, I'm not going to accuse the Titans of doing this, but it is good for the Titans that this is happening, which makes me wonder if they're the ones doing it. I'll get to that coming up next. I'm going to company. What did you find the game?
The two people that I spoke to were in meetings and had these individual meetings that I just laid out to you, what they are, who's in there, and why they're important. Teams in the top 10 drafting that need a quarterback. The two people that I spoke to in these positions left the meeting feeling like Shadeur Sanders was not overly concerned with what they thought of him. They had a 15-minute meeting with them, and when they were done, they both said in different ways, different words, that they did not feel like Shadeur Sanders cared all that much about what that organization thought of him. A couple of the quotes that I put in there. One said that it wasn't a professional approach. One person that I talked to said the best way I can describe it is it just wasn't it wasn't a professional approach. Shadeur Sanders did not take a professional approach to this interview. The other person I talked to said he wasn't taking it seriously at all. I didn't get the sense that he was taking it seriously. So when you hear it wasn't a professional approach and you hear he wasn't taking it all that seriously, that's not the interview that you're looking, it's not the response you're looking for from a potential suitor, from somewhere you plan to go play.
That was Todd McShay on his podcast, The Todd McShay Show on The Ringer. And between that and then Josina Anderson's long report / chastisement of a league source. What was it, Josina? Was it a quarterback's coach of a team picking in the top 10 who she wasn't going to out, who had been saying that Shadeur was brash and arrogant in the meetings? So now there is a narrative that is starting to come out of the combine, which is that Shadeur Sanders is acting entitled in these meetings. That doesn't necessarily surprise me, but I also have no idea if it's true or if it's not. So I am not going to accuse the Titans of being the team that is slandering Shadeur Sanders. And again, we don't know if he's being slandered or not. If you listen to our midday show, and you know I love those guys, but if you listen to our midday show, you would think that they're slandering Shadeur Sanders. Did you hear today Willie compared himself to Shadeur Sanders?
Compared who to Shadeur Sanders?
Willie compared himself.
Oh, no, I did not.
Like, he was like, I go back to when I was drafted in baseball, and was there ever a time where I was short with somebody, or I was rude to a scout, or I was rude to and there was this one time when game 3 of the Mets and the Astros NLCS in 1983 was on, and Mike Scott was pitching, and it was a beautiful sunny day outside and a beautiful day for Mets baseball, and some college coach called me, and I'm like, Willie, brother, you and Shadeur Sanders. I mean, I'm like, not similar. But again, leaving aside the reality that maybe Shadeur Sanders did come off like an a-hole in these meetings, if he is getting slammed, I wonder if the Titans are the ones doing it. Because if I was in the Titans' shoes, I'd be blasting Sanders too, even if I didn't believe it. And here's why. It's not about a personal agenda against Shadeur Sanders. It's a personal agenda against there being a second quarterback as far as the value of my pick is concerned. If there's only one good quarterback in this class, then I want every team, including all of you and everybody in the media and everybody, I want everybody to think that I'm going to take him. And that if you want him, my pants don't just have to come off in the trade you're offering me. You have to take my pants off in order to get the quarterback from me. But I can only do that if you only think there's one guy. And it's not exactly about convincing Brian Dable or whoever the hell the Jets OC is. It's not about convincing those guys that there's only one quarterback. And the only quarterback out there is the quarterback that I have. But to me, it's about convincing the idiot owners. And when it comes to the Giants, we know their owner's a moron. When it comes to the Jets, we know their owner is using Madden football and his teenage son to make football decisions. So again, this narrative that's coming out that is Shadeur Sanders is arrogant, or Shadeur Sanders doesn't have the arm strength, or Shadeur Sanders, whatever. All of it may be false. I have no idea. But if I were the Titans, that's what I'd be telling people. Again, I could sit down with Shadeur Sanders, and he could be the most polite, the most honest, the most forthcoming, accountable young man I've ever seen in my life. And I'd still probably walk outside and say, can you believe Shadeur Sanders came in here and he didn't take these interviews seriously? It's not the truth. But again, the truth isn't important. It's what helps me that is important. And I understand it's not fair to Shadeur Sanders for the Titans to badmouth him. And I'm not saying the Titans are badmouthing him. I'm just saying if I was the Titans, I'd be badmouthing him. And it does behoove the Titans to have this narrative out there against Shadeur and that Cam Ward is all by himself as QB1. And it's not fair to Shadeur if that's the case. But guess what? This is the NFL. And I've said it 1,000 times before, and I'll say it again. Nothing about the NFL is fair. If you think the league is fair, pick up the phone, call Mike Mularkey, and ask him if he thinks the league is fair. Guy won a playoff game and got fired. But this sudden Shadeur Sanders fall, that's good news for the Titans. Very good news for the Titans. If they aren't just already for sure made up in their mind they're taking Cam Ward at 1 and nothing else matters. 615-737-1025. We're to your phones next. We got a lot of them. 615-737-1025 here on the Stillman and Company program. Put that Shadeur thing out there as well. This week's Nashville's Best Deal is from Brewster's Real Ice Cream in Hendersonville. See why Brewster's is a scoop above the rest with the best ice cream shakes, sundaes, splits, blasts, and more. Visit theGameNashville.com/deals now. Get half off a $50 gift card while supplies last. And be sure to tune in to 94.9 The Fan tomorrow for Vandy women's basketball as the 8th-seeded Commodores take on the 9th-seed Tennessee in SEC women's basketball. Tip-off is at 10 a.m., and the pregame will begin with Jake at 9:45. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 94.9thefan.com.
Titans aren't going to be players for Sam Darnold. If he was a shorter term, cheaper option, sure. But as long as he's going to be a long-term, high-dollar commitment for somebody, it's not going to be them.
Let's just lay it out the way we laid it out for Titans fans. So you have a choice, and it's just all things being. Here's your choice. Your quarterback for the next few years is Sam Darnold or it's Cam Ward. You're choosing Cam Ward.
No, I'm choosing neither.
Okay, so you just want a crappy quarterback.
I don't want a crappy quarterback.
Who's your quarterback?
It's some stopgap. It's a combination of Levis and
oh my god
and Mac Jones.
This is really inspiring.
Jameis Winston. I'm not here to inspire. I'm here to tell you what's going to happen.
I want you to run a team.
No, be a cheerleader. I want Titans.com.
That was PK this morning on with Robbie and Joe. PK has texted me. Again, I'm not saying PK's reporting is wrong. I'm just saying that I think the Titans might be lying to Paul. Again, I only see there as two options when it comes to quarterback for the Titans. Sam Darnold in free agency, Cam Ward with the number 1 pick. That's it. This Jameis Winston stuff, this Mac Jones stuff, it doesn't do it for me. What was the line Rich Gannon used at the Super Bowl? When I asked him, I said to Rich Gannon, I go, okay, you've known Brian Callahan since he was in middle school. Because again, Bill Callahan was the head coach of the team that Rich Gannon quarterbacked to the Super Bowl. And I said, if Brian Callahan said, Rich, you know quarterbacks, what should I do at quarterback? Because I'm on the hot seat. Gannon got kind of worked up. And Gannon was like, it's either Daniel Jones or it's Sam Darnold. Justin Fields doesn't do it for me. Mac Jones doesn't do it for me. And a rookie quarterback doesn't do it for me. And he's not going to do it for Brian.
It ain't going to work for Brian Callahan or Bill either. It's between those two guys. There's your answer.
It ain't going to work for Brian. And it ain't going to work for Bill either.
There's your answer.
I love it. It ain't going to work for Brian. And it ain't going to work for Bill. Well, I'm not sure they're calling the shots anymore, but I do agree with the rich guy. So this idea that Paul's floating out there that about, again, Will Levis working with Mac Jones, that ain't going to work for me, and it ain't going to work for Bill either. So I only see there as two options. And Paul's saying, like, I'm not telling you that that's what I want, telling you what it's going to be. I think there's a chance they're lying to him. I think there's a very good chance they're lying to him. So Paul has texted me and said, cite all the times the Titans have lied to me. If teams think they don't love Ward, teams will still have to get ahead of everyone else for him. If they love Ward, they are probably not getting the pick anyway. Now, that is true. But the first part, the cite all the times the team lied to me. Paul was the one, Ian, I think in December, I think in January, Paul was the one reporting that, wasn't it that he was afraid to report it because he didn't trust it?
What?
About everybody coming back. I think the thing he said were no big changes.
Something like that.
And he was like, I'm not going to report it.
Everyone was afraid because Amy's going to fly off the handle.
And fire someone. And so they kept saying, no big changes to the organization. And then they fired the general manager. Again, I think this is kind of the same thing. I think the Titans probably floated it out there. Just what would it look like if we brought Rand back? How would the fans react to it? So let's tell people that's what's going to happen. When that was never going to happen. One texter says, if the Sam Darnold report is smoke, then they have to trade the number 1 pick before signing Sam. If they're going to trade the number 1 pick, I believe the Bears traded the Panthers the number 1 pick on the Friday before the opening of free agency. My guess would be that they probably have the deal done with Darnold, turn around, trade the pick that day. And see, again, my plan would be I'm trading the pick twice. I'm trading it to the Giants at 3, especially if I get next year's 1. But I would be willing to do this if they included 34 and 2/3. Then I think I'd make the move. A 3rd this year and a 3rd next year. I mean, I'd ask for a lot more before I accepted that, but I think I'd be willing to make that move. And then I'd try to trade it again on draft night and really load up. And then go get Matthew Golden, who I absolutely love. One texter said, didn't Paul Kaharski lie about how the Titans were not interested in L'Jarius Sneed? Again, I don't think Paul was lying, but I don't have any recollection of what went down with Paul during the L'Jarius Sneed point. One texter said, what was Alex Smith's contract with the Chiefs? Maybe the Titans just don't want to pay Sam Darnold that much money. Now, that might be the case. Like, again, Paul saying, hey, if they were in the $30 million range, then they could get a deal done with Darnold, but the $40 million range is too rich. So I actually looked this up for a segment that I was going to talk about later on the program. In Kansas City, for the 5 years that he was the quarterback, Alex Smith made $68 million. Now, $68 million is not a lot of money for a starting quarterback in the NFL over a 5-year period in today's game. But this, again, talking about Alex Smith, is not today's market. Like, this market is bananas compared to what it used to be. Over that same 5-year period, Tom Brady made $77 million. So Alex Smith made $68 million. Tom Brady made $77 million. Just for, again, reference. So they paid Alex Smith. Again, if Jordan Love's making $55 million and I'm going to go pay Sam Darnold $40 million, I'd say that's some pretty good savings, especially for some of the deals that are going to come up soon. Like when Josh Allen gets a new deal, or when Patrick Mahomes gets a new deal, or then it's really going to look good. But Alex Smith did not play for free. LD from McMinnville says they're going to pass on Darnold, trade the pick to move back, and start picking up pieces to go with a bridge quarterback like Jones or Winston, and also have Levis just in case. I love it. You liked Mac Jones a few weeks ago, and I love that you're grasping at straws. So when I did the quarterback board, again, if you're looking at the stream, I have it right here. The green indicates something good. The red indicates something bad. And the blue is just like an average-ish kind of thing. When I got to Mac Jones, there is no green. Blue, started 7 games in 2024. Began the season as a backup. Red, and again, red is bad. 2-5 as a starter in 2024. Red, 39.8 QBR. Red, 8 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Red, 6.4 yards per attempt. Blue, 8 big-time throws in 2024. Blue, 2.9 percentage on big-time throws. Red, 10 turnover-worthy plays in 2024 and only 7 starts. Again, he threw 8 interceptions, 10 turnover-worthy plays, and he made 7 starts. Blue, 3.0 turnover-worthy play percentage, which would be 8th in the NFL if he qualified for enough throws. So it's not the end of the world. Red, 28th in the NFL per Pro Football Focus in grade in 2023 when he was a starter. Red, 11 big-time throws in 2023, 27th in the NFL behind Josh Dobbs. My contract for Mac Jones, 1 year, $4 million as a backup. So a couple weeks ago, I liked the idea of reclamating Mac Jones because I thought Bill Belichick screwed him up, and I thought he was a big, talented kid, and he played well against the Titans. But when you really do the research, he sucked. So it ain't going to work for me, and it ain't going to work for Bill either. One texter says, I definitely think that there's a lot of smoke screens, like Paul saying the Titans are taking Cam Ward if they stay with the pick, and Paul saying that these guys are too smart and too calculated to let this crap get out unless they wanted it. And if they did tell Paul and he blurted it out on the radio, that would be his last scoop with these guys. Again, the only things that get out are the things that people want out. That's how the Seahawks and the Broncos can start discussing a trade for Russell Wilson at the Senior Bowl, finish it at the Combine. Russell can agree to it, and nobody know because nobody wanted it out there. One texter said somebody probably fed this info to PK to report as a smokescreen for other teams to maybe spice up the trade talks. Again, I'm not banking on it, but I certainly think it's part of the equation. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number. Speaking of smoke screens and deadlines, there is the Predators trade deadline. They did win last night. And I have 2 quick Preds thoughts. We'll get to that. Then we're right back to your phones. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I absolutely love Hiller. They take great care of my home, and they can do the exact same for you. No one wants to deal with a plumbing, HVAC, or electrical emergency, and most of the time you don't know what it will cost or if it is going to get fixed right, or if someone is just trying to sell you something. When you call Hiller, their experts are going to solve your problems quickly, and the price you're told is the price you'll actually pay. There are no hidden fees or surprises on your bill. Seriously, I use Hiller, so trust me on that. Book online now the exact same way I do by going to happyhiller.com. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds of Falls and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face truck today.
Where Stastny and Englund both got caught there. A good forecheck, but kind of a bad bounce, a bad break. So you got to stay with it. I feel like some of that bad memories from the New York games kind of set in. Whoa.
Turnover. Novak scores! Tommy Novak gets a present and buries it. Preds tied the game. 5 minutes and 32 seconds into the first period. Tommy Novak from the slot.
Well, good hard work. Ship just trying to drive it, and Marchessault gets in on the forecheck. He didn't really do too much, I don't think. He just a kind of a soft play and a turnover, and Tommy Novak is right on top of it, right in the slot. Puts it just on the blocker side low. Perfectly placed, just quick trigger for Novak.
Did you see that? Rest of the NHL. Tommy Novak scored last night. Did you see that? How did Hal describe that goal last night, Ian? Just a perfect placement to the right side blocker of Jeremy Swayman.
Great placement.
Just great placement. Did you see that, NHL? You've got 2 days, not even. You've got, 46 hours to do something about it? You've got 46 hours. That is a 27-year-old centerman who only carries a cap hit of $3.5 million, who could be yours for that $3.5 million for not just the rest of this season on your playoff run you're about to go on, but also the next 2 seasons. Call the Predators. They're open for business. Give them a call, 770-PUCK, and give them a first-round pick. Give them a couple of second-round picks. Hell, I'll take really anything. Give them a whatever, a second-rounder for Tommy Novak, an AHL defenseman who's really NHL ready for a team that already has 6 D-men. That's like, well, we've got this guy at the AHL, but he's ready for the – fine, do it. I don't care. But trade him. Never mind the fact that he sucks, that he's small, he's terrible in his own end, and he never shows up in the playoffs or against good competition. Once you get over that, everything else is great. 27 years old. Did you see that goal last night? And don't think it's not lost on me that now that the season is practically over, Tommy Novak has decided to start scoring and UC Saros has decided to start winning. Ian, have you noticed that? As soon as the season went down the toilet, UC Saros decided to show up again. And Tommy Novak has decided to score.
Mm-hmm. Very convenient.
So at this point, all I have to cheer for the rest of the season, let's just call it like it is. All I have to cheer for the rest of the season is what they're going to do over the next 2 days and how many guys they're going to trade and how many future assets they're going to get. And in the case of Novak, how much cap space they're going to clear so that they can go get some other guys to come in here to play with the guys that have not performed to the level they're supposed to this year. It's getting rid of guys I don't want anymore. Novak, McCarron, 95% of the defensive core, and replacing it with guys who stink, like Kiefer Bellows. And these.
He just got sent down today.
Oh, no, Barry! What are we doing? We put those guys back in the lineup so that the team will lose, so that we can get that top 3 pick. Kiefer Bellows. We need him on the team. We need Blankenberg, number 37. He's so bad. They need, let me tell you who's awful. Have you watched this Justin Barron at all, number 20? He's awful. Play him. That's who this team
He was the
needs
healthy
to
scratch
lose.
last night.
He sucks. This team needs to lose. So in order to do that, we need more Kiefer Bellows. And we need to get rid of Tommy Novak. And you got to get rid of McCarron. And you got to, who else can they trade? The problem is, goodbye. The problem is with the Predators is that I still think the Predators probably value these guys more than everybody else does. So they'll look at Tommy Novak and somebody will offer them a 2nd-round pick for Tommy Novak. And I will say, good riddance. And they will look at it and say, but Jared, Tommy Novak only carries a cap hit of 3.5. He's 27 years old. He's starting to come along. Like maybe there's something there. No. Get rid of him. He sucks. But Jared, Michael McCarron's only $900,000 and you can get a 4th-line center to kill penalties anywhere. Colton Sissons has been on the team for the last 20 years. They hadn't won in the last 5. You'll be okay without them. But what you won't be okay with is if you win too many games and you screw up the rest of this godforsaken season and don't get the kid out of BC and don't get the really good Canadian defenseman and don't get the other Canadian forward who apparently is really good too. That one of those 3 players has to be a Predator next year. So get rid of everyone you can. Find a real big-time hockey trade at some point, probably more likely around the draft. A real big-time hockey trade to kind of change up the room. Collect some trade chips this year. Maybe you can use them for that big-time hockey trade and get that stud with that high pick. You need a top 3 pick in the draft. Did you see that, League? Did you see what Tommy Novak did last night? The other thing is this. Vingan texted me and said, don't you always say other teams don't want your bad players? Did you see what Tommy Novak did last night, Adam? Did you see? I mean, Pittsburgh traded a second-round pick from Mikhail Granlund 2 years ago. Anything's possible. Finally, I watched the game on Prime Video last night. So I, Ian, am paying the $19 a month for Prime Video for FanDuel Sports Network South, which gives me the Braves and the Preds. And it's $19 a month, and I think that's good value. Now, I had been using my parents. They have DirecTV. I had been using the DirecTV app. But in order to get to the game, I had to go through the Fire Stick, and I had to log in and, download and sign up. And I just want to press one button. Like, that's all I want to do is just click. So with the $19 a month for Prime Video, I can just click it and it just comes up.
Okay.
The stream is so freaking choppy. It's a bad stream.
Huh.
It's like it's 2012. Like it is 2025. Everybody streams everything nowadays. And I know it's not Prime Video's fault. I know it's this broke FanDuel Sports Network.
That's weird because I don't really have much of an issue when I use the actual FanDuel Sports Network app and I stream through that. It seems to run quite fine for the most part.
So here's the thing that bothers me is I reached out to them, because they DM'd me or whatever, because I bitched about it on Twitter. And they DM'd me and they were like, can you tell us the device you're using or whatever? And I was like, I'm using this. And they're like, could it be that the app's not loading? I'm like, it's on. It's just choppy and it sucks. And let me say this. I had used a wireless HDMI transmitter for a Fire Stick before this, and it was choppy, and I figured it was the wireless HDMI transmitter. I sent that back to Amazon. I don't think it's the wireless HDMI transmitter. I think it's the stream. And I think that this broken, just poorhouse FanDuel Sports Network won't go away fast enough. Because if every Braves game this year is going to be like that, where the pitcher goes to throw and then the arm's all choppy and the ball's in, it's going to drive me nuts. This is 2025. And I know it's not Prime Video's fault because Prime Video runs Thursday Night Football and they don't have any problems. So I know that the problem there is with the broken FanDuel company. Diamond Sports. Again, get rid of all the players and get the stream figured out. And then let's have a good team next year. 615-737-1025. Back to football. Again, Paul Kaharski reporting. The Titans are out on Sam Darnold in free agency, and they might not draft Cam Ward. Boy, I tell you, one person who is absolutely going to hate this, who is not Jared Stillman, who many of you like and most of you are rooting for. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company 1025, 1063. The game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. We are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. And again, the story of the day. Less than 24 hours after Sam Darnold officially became a free agent, Paul Kaharski rolled into the morning show and said the Titans are out on Sam Darnold, and then followed it up with a story at paulkaharski.com, which said, quote, I believe the Titans, if they pass on Ward and Sanders, who seem less attractive to them, are prepared for a worst-case scenario where they sign a stopgap player like Mac Jones or Jameis Winston at quarterback and go with him and Levis for 2025. In that scenario, Paul writes, they'd be spending draft capital and financial resources on a long list of other needs, topped by edge rusher, right tackle, and guard, and receiver, and also includes safety, tight end, and inside backer. So Paul's report, and again, this isn't Paul's opinion, this isn't what they should do, this is what Paul says they're going to do, is, yeah, we're going to wing it at quarterback this year because we need to figure out right guard first. In fact, what about running it back with Will Levis? Meanwhile, it should be noted that Brian Callahan told his buddy Easton Freeze at A to Z Sports that the coaching staff would actually be okay with Sam Darnold at quarterback. Again, there's no quotes in here, but here's what Easton Freeze wrote at A to Z Sports, which I am assuming is coming from Callahan. Quote, this coaching staff would be in on Darnold if they got him. But getting him is where the rubber meets the road for the two sides of this team's leadership. There is no controversy or drama that I'm reporting. Brian Callahan and his crew are worried about the here and now. They're fighting for their coaching lives this season. So naturally, they're going to be more interested in some better and perhaps more expensive options like Sam Darnold. So Paul puts it out there that they're not interested in Rodgers and they're not interested in Darnold, and that there's a legitimate chance that it is going to be Will Levis paired with Jameis Winston or Will Levis paired with Mac Jones. And I like Mac Jones, kind of. Jameis Winston or Mac Jones. So that means it's either Ward, and who knows about that, or it's Jameis Winston, who hasn't been a starting quarterback since 2021, or it's Mac Jones, who had, how many big-time throws was it for Mac Jones? According 11 big-time throws as the quarterback in New England in 2023, 27th in the league behind Joshua Dobbs. Oh, I'm sure Brian Callahan loves that idea. Now, I've been on record saying that Brian Callahan has no juice in the organization anymore. And I have been chastised by Paul for that, which Paul, by the way, this morning on Robbie and Retro was talking about. This is going to be a more personnel staff driven development, which means they don't give a rat's ass about Callahan over there. Brinker and Borgonzi and McKenzie and Ziegler, they do not care about Callahan. They did not hire Callahan. They are not responsible for Callahan. I'm the one who reported that what I heard, again, the gossip, that Chad Brinker didn't want to keep Brian Callahan, and Amy Adams Strunk said, no, you're going to keep him. But at the same time, even with that, like, think about being a head coach in the NFL. And the idea of your bosses who didn't hire you, and it's been reported by me, didn't want to stick with you, are then going to put Mac Jones in your lap as the starting quarterback over a quarterback who is 18-6 as a starter over the last 3 years. That is a total FU to the head coach if I have ever seen one. And so I'm sitting here thinking, like, if this is the case and you're actually contemplating going with Mac Jones next year at quarterback, with Mac Jones and Will Levis, you might as well just fire Brian Callahan right now. Like, I think if I was Brian Callahan, I'd walk into Amy's office, or I'd call Amy or wherever the hell Amy is. I think I'd tell Amy, if you stick me with Jameis Winston or you stick me with Mac Jones, you got to fire me. Because, like, I'm going to go to the podium and I'm going to say, I don't want these freaking Scarbinis. I wanted Sam Darnold. Now, he'll never do that. Callahan does not have the balls to do that. Like, he won't do it. And again, I probably think that there's a good reason for that because these guys are afraid of getting future jobs and things like that. And once one owner gets mad at you, then are the other owners. But can you, again, imagine being Brian Callahan? Easton Freeze wrote 2 days ago, this coaching staff would be in on Darnold if they got him, but getting him is where the rubber meets the road for the two sides of the team's leadership. There's no controversy or drama that I'm reporting here, but Brian Callahan and his crew are worried about the here and now. There is drama. There is controversy. Brian Callahan's afraid that his management is going to screw him. And if they stick him with Mac Jones and Will Levis, that's absolutely what they're going to do. Now, my sympathy for Callahan is limited because Brian Callahan knew what he was signing up for when he took the job. When they fired Mike Vrabel, after they had fired John Robinson in the middle of the season when the team was 7-5 in first place with a GM like Rand Carthon, you knew you weren't going to a stable organization. You knew it. So when you go 3-14 in the first year and you keep your job, and so they get you a new general manager, and the new general manager basically tells everyone he doesn't give a rat's ass about you and sticks you with Mac Jones, my sympathy is somewhat limited. But at the same time, how can you have a coaching staff show up to work every day when they know they're all getting fired? If this is what ends up happening, let's say the Titans end up trading the pick to the Giants and they draft Travis Hunter with the 3rd overall pick and they play him at corner and they sign Jameis Winston to be the quarterback and they bring Will Levis back and they have a training camp competition. If you're an assistant coach on that staff, why would you not mail it in every day? You're getting fired at the end of the year. And I'm not saying that Brian Callahan's not going to get a nice payout. Again, if I owned the team, I would have hired an experienced general manager and I would have let him do whatever he wants with Callahan. So Callahan might have already been fired if I had owned the team. But I just cannot imagine how they can stick him with Mac Jones and say, here you go, Brian, good luck. So when Easton Freeze, again, reports that and I do not understand the bromance between Easton Freeze and Brian Callahan, which is wild to me in and of itself. Is that not wild that that's where Callahan goes with his info, is to Easton Freeze? No disrespect to Easton, but like that's where he's going with it. And I'm not good for Easton. But the fact that Easton's saying this coaching staff would be in on Darnold if they got it. This coaching staff is saying, please give us the only freaking veteran quarterback out there. Please, so we can save our jobs. Give us a chance to coach. And Paul's report is the personnel side of this, Brinker, Borgonzi, McKenzie, Ziegler, they're like, no, we're not interested in that. We're going to send you Levis and Mac Jones. What a freaking train wreck that's going to be. Again, I'm sure this is going to be, I'm sure this is going to work. Yeah, we're willing to pay $30 million for the quarterback who's 18-6 over the last 3 years, but we're not willing to pay $40 million, even though Jordan Love, who wins 9 games a season, makes $55 million. And Trevor Lawrence and Tua, who missed the playoffs last year, each make north of $50 million. Sorry, Brian. If I'm Brian Callahan and you did that to me, I might just go to the podium and say, screw these guys. They did Rand wrong. They're doing me wrong. They did Vrabel wrong. I can't believe I decided to come here. Questions? And if you think that that's never happened before in the history of the NFL, then you do not remember Bill Parcells' infamous cook the dinner, buy the groceries press conference. It happens plenty of times. 615-737-1025, which is the phone number. We'll get to your phones at 615-737-1025. And if this ends up being the case, and Paul's reporting is right, and it's going to be Jameis Winston and Will Levis at quarterback, or Mac Jones and Will Levis at quarterback next year for the Titans, then I will lose all faith in the only star in the sky that the Tennessee Titans have. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025 here on our program. If you want to weigh in, that is 615-737-1025. Do you want to win tickets to a Preds game? Then be listening to Robbie and Retro tomorrow morning for Preds Pick to Click. All you have to do is guess a Preds goal scorer. If they put the puck in the back of the net, you win. Be listening tomorrow morning for the cue to call on Robbie and Rexroad. Oh, by the way, Tommy Novak. We'll see if he scores again before the deadline. Stillman and Company, 105 the game.
Titans aren't going to be players for Sam Darnold. If he was a shorter term, cheaper option, sure. But as long as he's going to be a long-term, high-dollar commitment for somebody, it's not going to be them.
Let's just lay it out the way we laid it out for Titans fans. So you have a choice, and it's just all things being. Here's your choice. Your quarterback for the next few years is Sam Darnold or it's Cam Ward. You're choosing Cam Ward.
No, I'm choosing neither.
Okay, so you just want a crappy quarterback.
I don't want a crappy quarterback.
Who's your quarterback?
It's some stopgap. It's a combination of Levis and
oh my god
and Mac Jones.
This is really inspiring.
Jameis Winston. I'm not here to inspire. I'm here to tell you what's going to happen.
I want you to run a team.
No, be a cheerleader. I want Titans.com.
Okay, that was the report this morning. It's not going to be Sam Darnold because they'll take Sam Darnold on a cheap deal, but they won't take Sam Darnold on a real deal. Terry McCormick, by the way, tweeted me 5 minutes ago, said, from what I am told, there is a budget limit as to what they feel Darnold is worth. Ward has piqued their interest, but that could be posturing to drive up the price to trade out of number one. Look, I get being out on Sam Darnold if you're in on Cam Ward. If you're in on Cam Ward, then you have to look at Cam Ward and forget about what all those collection of scouts and executives told Matt Miller when they ranked Cam Ward over the last 5 years of quarterbacks that have been taken in the first round. They ranked Cam Ward 18 out of 21, ahead of only Shadeur Sanders, Michael Penix, and Kenny Pickett. So they think that Anthony Richardson was a better quarterback, coming out of college than they think Cam Ward is. People in the league. You have to think that Cam Ward is Joe Burrow. You have to think that Cam Ward is Drake May. Because if Drake May was there, the Titans would be taking Drake May, and that would be it. But he's not. And I'm just going to say this again when it comes to this idea of a budget and limitations and everything else. The idea, I forget who floated it out there, but the idea is $30 million a year is what they're looking for when it comes to Sam Darnold. You don't get to set the market. This is the NFL. So the idea of, we got to have a budget here, Jared. Right. So don't give him $60 million. But Sam's play in Minnesota last year was worth $60 million. Again, he was an MVP candidate. It wasn't as if Sam Darnold was a league average quarterback. And a league average quarterback is a $55 million position. You don't set the market. Jacksonville pays their average quarterback, who has not accomplished anything in this league, $55 million a season. Miami pays their quarterback, who is one concussion away from retirement, $53 million a year. Green Bay is paying their quarterback $55 million a year for winning one playoff game last year at Dallas. So all of a sudden, the crappy Titans get to sit there and dictate what they're going to pay Sam Darnold. And instead, they view it as, if he doesn't meet our price, then we're going with Jameis Winston. Are these people stupid? And if that's the case, I'm going to lose as much faith in Mike Borgonzi as he's the only guy I believe in. I don't believe in Brinker. I don't believe in Callahan. I don't believe in Amy. I don't believe in any of them. The only one who I have any faith in to get this train back on the tracks is Mike Borgonzi. And Mike Borgonzi is Mr. Kansas City. And all he ever talks about is Kansas City this and Kansas City that. What did Kansas City do when they found themselves in the position with the number one pick in a bad quarterback draft, E.J. Manuel, Geno Smith? They traded 2 second-round picks for Sam Darnold. Alex Smith was 2 games over 500 as a starter when they traded for him. Sam's 3 under 500. They traded 2 second-round picks for Sam Darnold. The Chiefs paid Alex Smith $68 million over 5 years, from 2013 to 2018. For context, the Patriots paid Tom Brady $77 million over the same period. This guy never shuts up about Kansas City. He's in the exact same spot as Kansas City was when Andy Reid got there, and now he's going to do the opposite of what they did in Kansas City? Somebody help me out here. well, we're going to have a budget for him. And if he doesn't play ball by our rules, then we'll go get Jameis Winston. You know what's going to happen? Because Amy's just this crazy. What's going to happen is the Titans are going to run through moron GMs and coaches for like one a year for the next 5 years. And then eventually Amy's just going to be like, I just don't get it. Jared Stillman is more right on the radio than my general managers are. I mean, my general manager told me L'Jarius Sneed's knees were going to be fine. And all of a sudden he plays 5 games. Jared Stillman is smarter than I'm just going to hire him. You watch. Let's go to your phones, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Cedric has been waiting patiently. Cedric, go ahead.
Man, this is like Russian propaganda radio from you today, Stillman. Straight up, dog. Bro, first of all, you talk about.
Do you want Jameis
Darnold.
Winston and Mac Jones?
No, hold on, bro. I didn't say that. But I'm not in on giving Scott Mitchell $40 million, man, to be our starting quarterback. You're talking about the Carolina Panthers and him going 4-2. That's propaganda. That's half truth. What is his record as the starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers? He's a loser. He's 8-9, and none of those years did he throw for over 60%.
You do realize 8-9 on a bad team is a lot freaking better than what you have right now, right?
It still sucks, man. We're not going to give this cat $40 million, bro. That is fiscally irresponsible. Borgonzi better be smarter than this than to go sign a dude that has a losing record as a starting quarterback that's on TV talking about he sees ghosts. This is exactly what the Detroit Lions did back in the day when they signed Scott Mitchell after he had a good year coming in for Dan Marino. And what happened to that bum's career? That dude
Scott
is
Mitchell went 10-6
loser.
as a starter in 95.
Do what?
He went 10-6 as a starter in Detroit in 95.
And what did he do the rest of his career? Nothing.
9-7 in Detroit.
Loser. That is what Sam Darnold is, man. We cannot.
He was 27-30 in 5 years as a starter.
Bum, straight up bum, dude. That's what Sam Darnold is.
Cedric,
Sam
you won
Darnold,
3 games last year. You went 3-14.
Jay, let's not shift the argument, bro. What is the number one job of a quarterback, bro? I mean, tell me, what is the number one job of a quarterback?
To give your team a chance to win.
To give your team a chance to win. And you do that by completing passes. There's one dude out there right now. There's no free agent that you go get. Shadeur Sanders has got to be your guy. 74% completion percentage, and that dude completes passes. He's intelligent. And you mean to tell me if Tom Brady is saying this is the guy that's out there, we don't listen to the great Tom Brady, bro?
So then why doesn't Tom Brady draft him?
You said what?
Why doesn't Tom Brady draft him? Why is Tom Brady dropping his pants at the ski resort to get Matthew Stafford?
I mean, I would try to get Matthew Stafford too. He's the best option out there.
Okay. Thank you for your call, Cedric. Again, you're going to roll the dice on Shadeur Sanders, who may not even be the second quarterback in this class anymore, who I kept talking about, hey, if you're so good, go to the combine and show us. Go compete. And everyone said, it doesn't matter what they do at the combine. And then Jackson Dart goes and lights it up, and now Jackson Dart might be QB2. And if you guys really want the Mahomes sauce, Jackson Dart is the guy that I would circle for this one reason. The one thing that I think he might have in common with Mahomes. Mahomes was dinged because of the air raid offense that had been run at Texas Tech. They had said everybody puts up a gazillion yards a game in this offense. And so forget about that. And that dinged Mahomes. And that might be the same thing with Dart, which is, well, everybody puts up a bunch of yards in Lane Kiffin's offense and they all suck. And there may be some truth to that. But maybe Dart's a little different. Kinston is up next here on our program. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, Kinston.
What's going on, Jared? Something that's not making a lot of sense to me. I'm kind of, with Cedric there, I can't get behind Sam Darnold. As much as you say the number one pick, if it fails, could get those guys fired, same thing can happen with paying a guy $40 million and he goes out there, it's nothing what you thought it would be. That'll get you fired in 1 year. Where if Cam Ward has a so-so rookie season, you have a
it'll get you fired. So if you spend $40 million on a quarterback, which again is $15 million below the market for average, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you spend $40 million on $15 million below the market for average with a 3-win football team, and you go out there and you go, 9-8, everyone's still fired?
No, we're not talking about 9-8. We're talking about if we get to Sam Darnold.
You think you're going to go 3-14 again with Sam Darnold at quarterback?
No, let me make my point. This is what doesn't make sense to me. You said last week or somewhere around there, you had a plan all laid out of how they could build a team around Sam Darnold, giving him a $160 million quarterback. They cut Harold Landry. You said it's $17.5 million was worth about 3 players. You had the Washington Commanders blueprint about signing these players to get 3 good players for 1 Harold Landry. But now all of a sudden, if they go with Cam Ward, who's going to be way cheaper, now all of a sudden they're not going to have the resources to build a team around him. That doesn't make sense.
Well, they have money, but they won't have the picks that they get from trading back.
You won't have the picks with rookies, but you will have more money to go get more solid, proven vets.
Have you looked at the free agency market?
I mean, you yourself said take the Commanders route,
right?
Go find solid guys,
right? With a veteran quarterback.
It doesn't matter. If you put a good team, what does the Commanders do with a rookie quarterback? Your blueprint was they put solid veterans around Jaden Daniels, and they gave them
and Kinston. If I thought Cam Ward was Jaden Daniels, or I thought Cam Ward was Drake May, we wouldn't be having this discussion. They would be taking Drake May with the first overall pick, and on you go. But this guy's not as good as them.
I'm not. Even if he's a tier below, right? And that's a big if. If he can give you competent play with a solid team, you could be around at 8-8, 9-8 record, Jared.
But you're saying if he becomes a tier 2 quarterback.
I'm not. So first of all, I think
Sam Darnold is a tier 2 quarterback. If you use the number 1 pick on Cam Ward, he has to be a tier 1 quarterback.
Eventually, not in his rookie year. But if I go spend $40 million on a guy who may be a pumpkin, then that's taking away how I can build my team around Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold is 18-6 over the last. Thank you for the call.
What do we say about Ryan Tannehill?
Ryan Tannehill's a tier 2 quarterback.
He's a trailer. He's not a tractor. He can go along with you, but he can't pull you.
Okay, so again, this goes back, Kinston, I appreciate your call. This goes back to the mystery box. You have 2 options. You want a boat, and there's a boat and a mystery box. Kinston's talking about, if Cam Ward can be a tier 2 quarterback, Sam Darnold is a tier 2 quarterback. Like, we know that. It is established. He is 18-6 over the last 3 years as a quarterback, including for the crappy Carolina Panthers. So you've got a tier 2 quarterback right here who you can pay for tier 2-ish money. Because again, Jordan Love is $55 million. Trevor Lawrence is $55 million. Tua is $53 million. Jared Goff is $55 million. So for $40 million, for $15 million savings, you can get a tier 2 quarterback. And instead, Kinston's like, well, what if we draft this guy and he's a tier 2 quarterback? Boom, there's my answer. You want the mystery box over the boat. Because you think that the mystery box could be a boat. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Again, you can tell me that, Sam Darnold only had 1 good year. That's actually not true. He went 4-2 with a team that Baker Mayfield went 1-5 with. Well, that doesn't count. Oh, okay. 615-737-1025. I think Sam Darnold could theoretically sue NFL Films and make like $100 million. Because that Monday Night Football game where he was mic'd up or whatever on the sideline and said he was seeing ghosts, that should have never been allowed on the TV broadcast by NFL Films. And I think that's done more damage to his career and the narrative surrounding it than any of his actual play has done. Because again, he wins 14 games and everyone's like, oh, no, he sucks. Really? Well, did you see the playoffs? Did you see Jordan Love in the playoffs throw 3 interceptions against the Eagles? He scored 9 points. See Jared Goff throw 3 interceptions in the playoffs? Oh, you must have missed it. Jason Fitz joins us next on the program. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Again, the big report today, Paul Kaharski says the Titans are not in on Sam Darnold and says they could go with Will Levis at quarterback with Jameis Winston and Mac Jones as stopgap options. Again, I can only imagine how that would make Brian Callahan feel. Hey, we're going to punt on the season. One texter into the text line says the Titans are going to suck this year. They're going to fire Callahan and hire Mike McCarthy to be their next head coach. They're going to draft a quarterback next year after trading for picks this year. And you just don't like it because they'll suck next year. But there's a real possibility that that is their plan. That wouldn't be my plan with this owner. I mean, I'll tell you right now, as fickle as she is selling tickets for a new stadium, it wouldn't be my plan to suck. And I'll say this, if they suck again this upcoming year, people will be mad at Callahan. But if they do that with Mac Jones at quarterback, the finger's getting pointed at Brinker, and it will get pointed right here at Brinker. Trust me. For the people that think that I'm racist about the Rand Carthon stuff, go put Jameis Winston and Mac Jones at quarterback, see what happens on this program with Brinker. Jason Fitz joins us now on the program from Yahoo Sports and Fox Sports Radio. So Fitz, let's start there. Let's say PK's right. The Titans are out on Darnold and they don't draft Cam Ward because everybody thinks the Giants are going to trade at number 1 for Cam Ward, and they go with Jameis Winston or Mac Jones or that kind of quarterback. Then what?
Yeah, then to your point, I truly believe what you're doing is you're saying we'll get him next year. And to do that, you have to have such assurances inside the building that nobody is job on the line, and that's a hard assurance to get. You know, I don't think most people believe that the Patriots would be one and done with their coach, right? Like, you just, in today's NFL, you win 3 games, you're going to be on the firing block. So, you know, I hear it when people say, well, just punt until next year. It's just everybody involved in the building at that point is risking their livelihood on punting to next year. So, look, I understand there are no quarterbacks available. I think I've been the biggest guy nationally screaming that over and over and over again. I understand there's no easy option. I just, man, you got to have a lot of confidence in the way you're structured internally to punt on the position. And by the way, I don't know that that's the worst scenario to take, but man, I don't know, when you have the first overall pick this year and you get nothing out of it and you think that you're going to punt out into next year, that's gross for fans. It just feels gross.
Well, and not only that, at the same time, I don't understand why Sam Darnold sucks so bad, because Sam Darnold in the last 3 years as a starter is 18-6. He won 14 games last year. He was an MVP candidate in Minnesota. And apparently there wasn't a market at $40 million for Sam Darnold. Minnesota didn't tag him. They said, no, we'll go with JJ instead. And apparently these quarterback needy teams, you know, Paul's reporting was if the price dropped, and I forget who said around $30 million, they'd be interested. This is a league where Jordan Love makes 55. If Jordan Love and Tua and Lawrence are all 50 million plus, Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins last year in free agency at 34 years old coming off of a torn Achilles is worth 45. How is Sam Darnold not worth 40 to the worst team in the league who doesn't have a quarterback and doesn't have any option outside of Sam Darnold for a quarterback? What am I missing?
I mean, you're right, because $40 million is bridge gap money now. Like, that's a part of this. Like, we all have to understand the economics of quarterback have changed so much. So $40 million is gap money. And what everybody needs to start doing, I think, is thinking about how much money total you have invested in the player. And I've been saying this for years, but instead of looking at one quarterback's contract, ask yourself positionally, how much do you have invested in a quarterback? So if you're telling me that you can have some sort of a starter and you're out $40 million, well, I don't care about my favorite team's owner's money. I don't care about that at all. And you can structure $40 million in a way that is still relatively cap friendly even. So, like, I'm confused why any team that, like, look, everybody knows I'm a Raiders fan. If you tell me that the Raiders spent $40 million on Sam Darnold, I got no problem with it. Like, at some point you got to have somebody play. And so I think instead of looking at it at $40 million, what I would challenge everybody to do is look at it at $10 million, because that's the difference between Sam Darnold and, let's say, any other, schlacky that you're going to put in there. $25 to $30 million is kind of like, what do you think you're going to get? Gardner Minshew? Like, I know what it feels like to live through a season of Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. And the two of them combined cost my team about $20 million. I would pay double to not have Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew again as a quarterback. I think people forget how bad it can get when it is really bad. And I would make the argument that Will Levis belongs in the same bucket as Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. And if that's how you start the season, then just end the damn thing because you don't have a chance. So to me, spending an extra $10 million on Sam Darnold comes back to what you and I have talked about before. If you don't believe that Callahan can get confident play out of the quarterback position, then what you're really saying is you don't believe Callahan is nearly the coach that Kevin O'Connell is. And if that's the case, man, you got to start looking inward and asking yourself why that's the leader of your team. I think Callahan can be a good head coach. Go prove it. Go be it.
So Easton Freeze wrote at A to Z Sports, and it feels pretty obvious to me that Easton Freeze and Callahan have a good relationship, that this coaching staff would be in on Sam Darnold. In fact, I don't want to misquote the story and then people get mad at me, so I'm just going to read it to you. Quote, this coaching staff, this is A to Z Sports, this coaching staff would be in on Darnold if they got him. But getting him is where the rubber meets the road for the two sides of this team's leadership. Boy, that sounds cohesive. There's no controversy or drama that I'm reporting, but Callahan and his crew are worried about the here and now. They're fighting for their coaching lives this season, so naturally they're going to be more interested in some better and perhaps more expensive options like Sam Darnold. I say this with, if they stick Brian Callahan with a return of Will Levis and Mac Jones, or Will Levis and Jameis Winston, and they don't give Brian Callahan because they're too cheap, Sam Darnold, then aren't they really setting themselves up for like a serious problem with their coaching staff that may just even mail it in before training camp even starts? And then what's that do to your organization, Fitz?
Yeah, and this, so you're right. And by the way, this all comes back to what we said months ago and why I keep screaming. I think the only way you can actually rebuild is if you bring everybody in on the same clock at the same time on the same day. Like, this is the problem with having a coach and a GM that aren't on the same clock, because now all of a sudden you've got a GM that's going to sit there and say, well, of course, it's my job to look at the next 5 years. Well, that is a GM's job. Like, a GM has to have a long-term plan. But when you're long-term planning a coaching staff that is not in a situation where they can long-term plan, this is hell. This is like NFL hell. And the Titans are in NFL hell because the timelines don't match. Like, no different than, I would say, the Giants are in NFL hell because you have two guys right now, the decision maker and the head coach, that are making every decision based on what they need today. And the Giants are nowhere near winning, but the Giants didn't want to press reset. So now they've created inevitable hell. Like, I think you have to step back and pull your fan hat off for everybody and just look at it and say, how do the best teams do it? What is cohesiveness for a really strong franchise? And cohesiveness is everybody on the same page. And to be on the same page at your core, you have to be on the same timeline. This is true for any, I don't care if you make widgets or cars. Like, if the person selling the cars on a different timeline than the people manufacturing the cars, your car business is going to go in the dump. And it's a basic business principle that the Titans didn't follow. So whatever happens, if their people are not on the same page, that is not their people's fault. That is ownership's fault for building a structure that is incompetent.
Jason Fitz is with us on the program. So along those lines, Fitz, I think the options are simple. I think it is Sam Darnold or Cam Ward. And if it's not Sam, then it's Cam. And I'm not a Cam guy, but I can at least accept it. I think they'll fail and everyone will get fired in the end, but that's their business, not mine. Cam or Sam, who's better in 3 years?
Sam. I'm not a big Cam guy. I hope I'm wrong, by the way, because everybody hates me when I say this stuff. I hope I'm wrong about Cam and Shadeur. I really do. But I'm not a huge Cam guy. To me, if I ran the Titans today, I would be absolutely willy-nilly with my owner's money. I would throw it out the window like it was hot garbage. I don't care. I would sign Sam Darnold, and then I would allow my GM to run a board where it's as simple as the draft can be. It's best player available. And if you believe it's Cam, then draft him. Look, the Falcons just did this with Kirk Cousins and with Michael Penix Jr., and it looked stupid until it wasn't stupid, and now nobody cares about the lost money. They got a quarterback. To me, like, if you get Sam Darnold, what you really give yourself is best player available flexibility in the draft. I think Sam's a better player in 3 years than Cam, because I think Cam and Shadeur are both destined to be lifelong backups. I think they're closer to being Zach Wilson than they are to being starting quarterbacks in the NFL. But that being said, if you love Cam, I'd still draft Sam because I think that the best situation for Cam doesn't put him on the field year one. The best situation for Cam lets him learn and develop. And I think any of these quarterbacks, whether we're talking about Cam or Jalen or Jackson or Shadeur, any of these guys, if we're talking about these quarterbacks, then I think you have to eventually just look at it and say, how do I make that quarterback successful? The real answer to that is long-term development of that quarterback.
Jason Fitz, as always on our program, last one. Who is the Raiders quarterback going to be?
Right now, I mean, I kind of think Sam is in that conversation. I don't think they know. I don't think everybody else thinks it's Shadeur. I don't think it's necessary that it's just Shadeur. I think the Raiders are a lot more likely to take a flyer on a quarterback in the second or third round and then just see how they can develop them.
Jason Fitz, as always, Fitz, great stuff. Appreciate you. We'll talk next week.
Appreciate you, brother. Have a great week.
Thank you, Jason Fitz. Somebody talking some sense on the program. So another thing I hadn't thought about before, but I heard it out of New York today, and I don't like it. And I'll explain why. We'll do it next. I'm going to Company 102.5 The Game.
Jordan Renan posted yesterday. He covers the Giants for us, and he posted, quote, multiple league sources left their meetings with the Giants this week thinking a trade for the number 1 pick with Tennessee was likely. In that scenario, they expected it to be for Miami's Cam Ward. You host a talk show in New York, Bart. Bart, you like it?
I don't, because this is a maybe. And you talk about
what do you mean? What's a maybe?
We don't know what Cam Ward is in the NFL. So you talk about a pick that can represent the now and the future, because now you have a regime that may be on their way out. You don't want them to mess you up for the future. The person that represents the now and potentially the future is Sam Darnold. You talk about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is younger than Joe Burrow. Sam Darnold is younger than Lamar Jackson. Sam Darnold threw 35 touchdowns last year.
Did you just say you prefer Sam Darnold over Cam Ward?
Yes, I do. Because you know why?
Add the context. Add the context.
Let me add the context. The context is it's going to cost you 2 1s and 2 3s for Cam Ward. You're going to mortgage the future. You have an opportunity with Sam Darnold to pair him with maybe the best prospect we've ever seen in football, in Travis Hunter. You can lock down that corner and give him on the offensive side of the ball. You have money. Sam Darnold costs you maybe $40 million. You can get a poison pill 2 years and get out of that contract and still allow you to be there. If he busts, you're right there for Archie 2 years later.
You know, I used to think Bart Scott was kind of stupid. And then I heard that and I was like, hey, Bart Scott's kind of onto something. And I hear that and I think, no. Because nobody in America cares what Bart Scott has to say except in New York. And Bart Scott, now, it's kind of weird what's happened to the ESPN station in New York. They're not really on the radio anymore. They're kind of gone like all digital. They used to have like a real radio signal. And then they decided, like, I think they were paying like $20 million a year or something ridiculous for this radio signal. So what they did was they're now on some tiny crappy signal no one hears, but they're all digital. And so Bart Scott is on that channel. So it's not as powerful as WFAN. But when I hear Louis Riddick basically take the glasses off there and say, hold on. You think Sam Darnold is a better option than Cam Ward? I'm thinking, you go, Louis. You go, girlfriend. Put Louis Riddick on every sports radio show in New York. WFAN, WCNN, WFUC, what? I don't care. Don't care. Put them on there. Put them on all the channels. And you tell the people in New York, Louis Riddick, that they need Cam Ward. Because I get a little worried about this idea that the Jets might actually think they can get Sam Darnold. No. He failed there. You don't want him. You got to eliminate a suitor. The people of New York, they have the stupidest owners. And they have one of the loudest medias and one of the most opinionated, we're right, we know everything medias. Let them sell themselves on Cam Ward. So now I'm getting worried about that too. That the people of New York might actually realize that the Jets are the problem and that Sam Darnold wasn't the problem, and the Giants might welcome him with open arms and get a quarterback. And can you imagine Sam Darnold throwing the ball to Malik Neighbors and keeping the number 3 pick? Oh, it's awful. Oh, it's awful. They just got Travis Hunter. Oh, it's awful. Awful. So let's keep that in mind as well. I also love the fact how Louis Riddick is talking about, like, you stupid, you know what? You would take Sam Darnold over Cam Ward. Fitz just said he would take Sam Darnold over Cam Ward. Tim Hasselbeck said yesterday he would take Sam Darnold over Cam Ward. Trevor said he would take Sam Darnold over Cam Ward. Joe, who I never agree with, for Jared versus Joe, he would take Sam Darnold over Cam Ward. I would take Sam Darnold doesn't suck. And yet the Titans are so stupid. The Jets are stupid. The Raiders are stupid. The Giants are stupid. This is how you end up where these teams end up, is by doing stupid stuff like saying, we're not going to overpay for Sam Darnold because we're the Titans. You do realize when you suck, and you do suck, you have the number 1 pick. You're the worst team in the NFL. You do have to overpay good players to come to your team. That's how this works. But the reason you stink is because you don't draft well. So you don't have any players to pay anyways, so you can pay Sam Darnold $40 million. But again, I feel like I'm just beating my head into a wall. The big story, Kaharski says they're out on Darnold at $40 million, which is ridiculous. Joe joins us next for Jared versus Joe. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game National Studios, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. It's 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, which means Caroline is here for a little Jared versus Joe. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, how we doing?
Terrible. Terrible.
Oh, no. Why? Oh,
Because
no.
I woke up this morning. My baby slept for 8 hours straight last night.
Oh, big boy.
And I woke up this morning and I was feeling great. I was feeling great. And then I tuned into my favorite morning show, Robbie and Rexroad. And even I was feeling great listening to them talk about the sense it would make to sign Sam Darnold. And then Paul Kaharski showed up and said the Titans are out on Sam Darnold, that they're not interested in paying him a real contract.
You buy it?
I don't know. Joe is with us, though. For Jared.
You don't want to buy it, do you?
Again, I'm in a bad mood because of that report
Sorry.
today. Joe is with us as always. Joseph, we were off to a good start, agreeing on to sign Sam Darnold until Paul wrecked it.
Yeah, I hope you've had some luck talking yourself into he's being lied to. I know that would make you feel better if that were true.
With that,
that'd be quite a lie. Hey, let's lie to Kaharski and then like 3 days later sign Darnold. That'd be pretty amazing, actually.
With that, it's time for Jared versus Joe.
Big discussions.
What's the deal with this quad?
Bigger arguments.
I was right. I had my finger on the pulse of this team.
It's so dumb. It's time.
Oh, it was the cap. Cap.
For Jared versus Joe.
For you, this is actually kind of well reasoned.
Brought to you by First Horizon Bank. Big bank muscle. Small bank hustle. And by Pella Windows and Doors.
We make the rules around here now.
Now on Stillman and Company.
Let's get it on.
Okay, Caroline, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, speaking of Sam Darnold and the quarterback situation, Joe, you go first. Is Shadeur Sanders a legitimate top quarterback prospect? Or is there a little bit of a Sports Center headline, Deion Sanders' son, it's good for clicks and it's a good story kind of TV headline prospect?
I love it. Call it what it is. TV prospect, I should say.
Yeah. This is probably the predetermined Jared win. That's fine.
Oh, please.
Is Shadeur Sanders? Well, you know what we're both going to say. Is Shadeur Sanders a TV prospect, as Jared said? Is he talked about more because he's Deion's son? Hell yes, of course he is, and that's been true. From the time I guess I don't know how much people were talking about him like at Jackson State, but yes, absolutely, he gets more attention because he's Deion's son. But this is the key to like what you're asking here. First of all, I'll answer no right off the bat to top of the draft. I don't think either of these quarterbacks are that. Shadeur is my top quarterback. I think he's the best quarterback because I think he processes quickly. I think that he is accurate. And there's actually I cited on our show today. There's this accurate throw metric with him, which would be is the best in the draft, but also would only be second and last draft to Jaden Daniels. And I think that's what I see when I watch him play. But I don't think either of them are I don't think either of them are quarterbacks who should go number 1 or number 2 or even number 5. So is he talked about more? Yes. Are teams valuing him more because of the Deion thing? I would argue the exact opposite. I would argue that the Deion factor, even though I don't think it's nearly what some people make of it, I think some teams are afraid of that and will talk themselves into, I don't want to deal with that crap. I don't want Deion on a Tuesday at his presser talking about how we need to get a left tackle or, Shadeur needs better plays or whatever it is. Deion obviously has a big platform. I don't think that helps him at all as a prospect. So, again, TV prospect talked about more in media. Absolutely. Like a fake, which I guess is what Jared is saying, like a fake prospect who's not even like who should go in the 3rd or 4th round. I think that's what you said last week, right, Jared? I think that's what you said. third or fourth round.
I have no recollection of saying that. Ian, did I say
Jared,
third or fourth round in the Jared versus Joe for Shadeur?
No, it wasn't during Jared versus Joe. It must have been on their show or something.
Okay. I have no recollection of it. Maybe I said it. I don't know.
You go ahead. You take it from here. How bad of a prospect is he? You're telling me, again, like I can't wait till Dane Brugler's Beast comes out and as all this stuff has happened. And I just want the straight up analysis of him on the film. I mean, I'm with TD. I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. I think he's a real prospect.
So do you think Ian Rappaport is getting lied to, who said at the Combine, Ian Rappaport said that Shadeur Sanders is not anywhere near the mix for QB1 and might not be ahead in QB2, might not be ahead of Jackson Dart?
I don't know. No, I'm not. I don't know that he's being lied to. It's just my opinion of Shadeur Sanders as a player.
And I think that I think it's a TV-based opinion. So here's my theory on Shadeur Sanders.
Oh, well, that's great.
I believe.
Tell me how. So Stephen A. Smith saying, man, yeah, I really like Shadeur, which I never watched Stephen A. Smith. Somehow that influences me watching him play football and thinking he's good. That's what you're saying?
I think the TV ecosystem.
Well, good. I'm glad that you're continuing to live in a fantasy land.
So
go ahead.
Here's why I think Shadeur Sanders. So I'll just give you my thought of it right here, which is when it comes to Shadeur, I don't think he was ever really close to Cam Ward amongst NFL teams. Like, I think that the TV debate was Cam Ward versus Shadeur Sanders because none of the quarterbacks on any of the good teams were any good this season. Like, Texas was good, but Quinn Ewers sucked. And Jalen Milroe, awful outside of that first half of the Georgia game. Carson Beck, so bad he didn't even declare for the draft. Will Howard, good, but not good enough outside of the talent he had at Ohio State. So there wasn't really a second quarterback to really bring into the discussion. So I think NFL teams looked at Shadeur and they said he's probably like a second round, third round quarterback, like Trevor Sikkema said on our show. And so what has happened was, again, we need to have the arguments. We need to have the discussions. Mel, who are the quarterbacks? And Mel was saying, well, Cam Ward and Shadeur Sanders. And everybody knows Shadeur Sanders because everybody watches Colorado in spite of the fact that other than the fact that Deion is their coach and Travis Hunter was on their team, there was no reason to watch Colorado play. More people watch Colorado play than watch Arizona State play. And Arizona State is better than Colorado. And more people watch Colorado and they see the quarterback and Shadeur's a star. And so people have opinions and that gets them worked up. And he's a TV prospect. He's like Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow was a TV prospect. Now there was one more on the NFL that drafted him in the first round, but I don't think that Shadeur Sanders is falling right now in the draft. And I don't think Cam Ward is rising in the draft. I think it's that you media people went to the Combine and the NFL people at the Combine told you it's not close. So all of a sudden, because on my big board, I had them together. Now I've had 10 NFL people tell me they're not together. I have to make up some narrative that they're falling. That's what I think's happening.
Yeah, it's all a bunch of poppycock. I mean, first of all, you act like people go to Indy and that's when they first start asking personnel people and coaches about prospects. I mean, it's a constant thing.
So then how did Shadeur Sanders fall without throwing a pass and Cam Ward rise without throwing a pass?
So I love how you fit things for your narrative. You want this to be true. So now I'm sure the interviews in Indy mean nothing. That means no. That's all just that's BS. None of that.
Well, Josina Anderson told me that the coach that didn't like Shadeur's a racist in that long tweet she sent out the other day.
Well, she didn't say that, but good for you for
that's
fighting,
what she said.
Fighting. Okay, I didn't read that, but that's fine. You can read into that.
Caroline, did you read the Josina Anderson tweet?
I just searched her name into Twitter to see if I could find it.
Oh, I don't know how you missed. How did you miss it? You're like a college football person.
Jared, it's not relevant.
Sometimes I miss tweets.
So the Josina Anderson thing again brings up the point that some teams didn't like the guy in their interviews. I mean, is that so hard to believe?
It is for her.
Teams did not like him. Well, okay. So she's mad about it, but also she's confirming that it's true, which is my point.
I actually think she was the one that reported it, and in her report was like, here's
she's
my
not the
report,
only
and here's
one.
why I don't agree with any of it.
Great. So again, she's confirming what I'm saying, which is yes, I think Shadeur Sanders hurt himself. I think Cam Ward helped himself. I also think that there was talk before the combine that a lot of people think Cam Ward is the best prospect. And I get it. Again, I think he has the higher ceiling. I just don't trust him. I don't think it's all going to come together for him. I will go with the safer prospect. But your little theory here, Jared, I want you to say that to TD, and I want you to tell TD, TD, I know that, in October of last year, you said you believe Shadeur is the best quarterback in that draft. But I think it's just that he's just a TV. You're just being influenced because he's a TV prospect. I want you to tell Jordan Reed, who was an ESPN NFL draft analyst.
Jordan Reed had Malik Willis mocked at number 2 in the draft of the Detroit Lions in 2022.
Was he alone? No,
but
he
Malik
was not.
Willis was a total TV prospect.
There were no
quarterbacks in that class, so they manufactured a discussion about these quarterbacks that nobody in the NFL thought was any good.
Jared, Jordan Reed will tell you right now, he believes Shadeur Sanders is flat out the best quarterback in the draft. Look, is he just being influenced because he's a TV prospect, or are these people actually doing their job and looking at the film and having different opinions?
So why did he have Malik at number 2 to the Lions? We know Malik sucked. Why does
he was wrong. Every year, Jared, people are dead wrong. I thought Bo Nix was the worst pick in the history of the freaking draft last year.
You're wrong. Yes, I know.
Yeah, exactly. People are wrong every year. You're going to point to that like it's some sort of confirmation of your ridiculous argument?
I mean, that's pretty bad, Joe. Like a guy that can't throw the ball who goes almost at pick 100.
Jared,
you have mocked at number 2?
Jared, if you want, I'll again send you the Malik Willis good plays from Liberty. They were freaking amazing. I mean, again, you don't put Jordan Reed on an island because he was wrong. Again, Will Levis, number 1.
Went
Will
86.
Levis, certainly top 5. Will Levis, absolutely top 10. Falls in the second round. I mean, people are wrong every year.
But at least he fell to 33. He didn't fall to 86.
Okay. I love how, we're talking about something, and then you have to seize on the next thing and seize on the next thing because your actual argument is ridiculous.
You're telling me that Jordan Reed would not buy into the hype of a TV prospect when he put Malik Willis, who was a TV prospect, number 2 in the draft.
I'm telling you, there are plenty of people who think Shadeur Sanders is a real prospect, people who actually do this for a living. You can believe that or not. Just because people think Cam Ward is better, again, I don't think that's a new thing since the combine.
Caroline, what's next?
On to the next. We referenced it earlier. Paul Kaharski had a report that the Titans are not interested in bringing in Sam Darnold, but might bring in Will Levis with Jameis Winston or Mac Jones. Jared, do we buy it, and how do we feel about it?
Boy, I believe that Paul is being told that. Do I think the Titans are telling Paul the truth? No. I mean, I have to believe that there are 2 options here.
Why?
Because it's lying season. And that's what people do in lying season. They lie. I have to believe there are 2 options
Poor
here.
Jared.
The 2 options are either Sam Darnold or Cam Ward. That there is not what about Mac Jones option? And so, again, you ask why? I don't know. Maybe they're trying to I have no idea. I have no idea why they would do this. Maybe they're trying to float it out to the fans to see how they'd react. Maybe they've just decided they're going to lie
Float it out
about
to the fans?
People do that all the time.
What?
The New England Patriots, unless you think everybody there was lying, were floating it out that Robert Kraft loved Mike Vrabel and wanted to hire him when he'd already put it in Gerard Mayo's contract that he was going to hire him. People do that stuff.
Robert Kraft did love Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is now the head coach.
He was never going to hire Vrabel over Mayo in 23. Because
you just inaccurately portrayed that situation.
I
Greg
believe
Bedard screwed up his reporting.
No. Ben Volen wrote it in the Boston Globe, and you said the Boston Globe has to have good enough editors that it had to come from either Robert or Jonathan Kraft.
Oh, believe me, I had a rant about how this is the freaking Boston Globe, and you're serious with this crap? I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't believe that Robert Kraft was floating something to the fans. Now, maybe someone close to him. But
again,
I mean, they had the contract.
I believe that I don't think Paul's lying, But Paul is the one the Titans put it out, I assume the Titans told Paul there weren't going to be major changes with the front office, and then they fired Rand Carthon. So this wouldn't be the first time the Titans
So what do you
have
think
lied.
happened there? So what do you think happened there?
I think they lied. I think they were floating it out to see how the fans would react if they brought Rand back. Everybody said that was terrible, and they fired him.
No.
Why else would they
Jared.
tell Paul that? You think in the last month of the season they changed their mind on Rand Carthon?
Are you kidding me that you're asking me if I think Amy Adams Strunk rashly changed her mind on something? You're seriously asking that? Did you see what happened last year?
So you think
When
around
the
Christmas, when Paul was telling you no major changes, you think that at Christmas, Amy had not made up her mind?
I think that Amy changes her mind rashly.
I said
and
the
that's
day
very
after your
demonstrated.
colleague, Diana Rossini, at The Athletic reported that Vrabel was staying, I said, I don't believe it. And I
cares?
wasn't saying, because the
Great.
Titans lie.
you
So
saying
I
I
think
don't
they're
believe it
lying
then
about
is the
this.
epitome.
Because I don't think
Okay,
there's
so they're
any
always
shot
lying.
that they're actually thinking about Will Levis returning on this team next year with Mac Jones at quarterback. I don't think there is any chance that actually happens.
Well, let's try to apply logic. I know this is hard for you. So I don't know about what the answer is, and I would agree that it would be very poorly received if it's a Levis, Mac Jones, Levis, whatever situation.
God.
I agree. Poorly received. But I need you to tell me why. First of all, you don't think Paul's lying? Yeah, okay, Paul's not lying, obviously. Paul was told this, obviously. Was he told this intentionally as a lie to float it to the fans? To see if the fans are like, no, we want Sam. I mean, I don't think that they're going after Sam Darnold, Jared. And I'm sorry to ruin your day, but
So do you think they're going after Jameis Winston and Mac Jones?
I don't know. I didn't take Paul as saying definitively, here's the names they're going after. I took it as they're going to be scouring for other veterans. They're not going to give him. The key thing that I think was reported was they are not interested in the long-term big money deal with Sam Darnold. They don't think he's good enough. Why would they lie to him about that?
Maybe they want to depress the market. I don't know.
Okay.
Again,
Hey,
why would they lie to
him?
him? Why would they lie to him about Rand? You're saying they didn't lie. You're saying they didn't lie to Diana and they didn't lie to Rand.
Jared.
I mean, they didn't lie to
First of all,
Paul about
the
Rand.
Okay. All right. My God. We've been through this with Diana and the thing. The Titans were absolutely hell-bent on making it clear that Vrabel was coming back because Amy believed that at that time. Amy then changed her mind. Yes, she did change her mind 6 weeks later. And the fact that because you said, well, I don't believe it. Who gives a crap?
I was right.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
So you
that
think I just
said
got
that.
lucky?
You say that all the time.
So you don't think they lied about Mike Mularkey?
I mean, again, like that doesn't have anything to do with this. The Mike Mularkey thing was bizarre. I mean, but I know the Vrabel thing from 23. You're totally out of your depth on that. I believe this last one was, I mean, I believe it was again a changed mind on. Okay, actually, let's fire Rand.
So in
Because
2023,
Paul,
you
you're
think
acting
that
like Paul. Hey, Jared, you're acting like Paul is the only person on the beat who got they're not doing anything. He was not. And you know he was not. It was all over that beat. So why? Who told them? And why did they tell them? Just because I hate all our local media. We're going to lie to all of you, make you look like idiots? That's what you think happened?
At some point, don't we have to look at the Titans' consistent lying and say, hey, they lie a lot?
No. At some point, don't we have to look at Amy Adams Strunk consistent changing of her mind and realize that she doesn't know what she's doing? I mean, we're past that point, and you still want to relitigate this stuff? Like there's some pre-planned lie here?
So you don't think they lied about Mike
Changing her
Mularkey?
mind all the time.
You think they just changed their mind on
I don't know.
Mularkey? You know they lied on Mularkey.
Thing, the Mularkey thing is, I mean, it's very weird.
He was getting fired after the Chief game. They put out a statement saying he was the coach going forward after they won the Chief game, and then they fired him after the Patriot game.
Right, but again, so what if they would have beat the Patriots? And Amy's like, okay, I guess we do keep him, right? I mean, to me, she was hedging her bets at that point, right? Or no?
No, I think she just lied. I mean, I think she just lied.
Okay.
Like,
all right, they just lie. Just lie.
I mean, doesn't it kind of add up that they do a lot of lying?
Well, sure. I mean, all teams do, but you are mistaking in some cases.
So do you
lying
really
for
think
changing
that,
minds?
Do you really think that they're sitting there saying that there is another option at quarterback next year? Do you believe that Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, and all the other GMs they have running this team, that they are sitting there right now thinking that there's a good chance, better than not, that their quarterback next year is not going to be Sam Darnold or Cam Ward?
Well, I don't know about Cam Ward. I mean, to me, this makes it more likely that they're really serious about taking him. And that's.
But Paul
one thing,
said
by
that
the
that's
way,
not how they. Paul said that other teams view these
No.
guys better than most.
Well, but he did not say they're not taking Cam Ward. The only thing he said was they're not giving the big deal to Darnold. He did. In fact, at one point, I believe he said that they might take Cam Ward. And that, to me, is a much more likely scenario.
No,
And
you
if not,
said they might take Cam Ward, and he said no. And you said, so what are you going to do? And then he said, I'm not a homer. I'm just saying what's going to happen.
Okay, I don't. I came away from that with him not totally shooting down Cam Ward.
Here's what he wrote in his piece at paulkaharski.com. I believe the Titans, if they pass on Ward and Sanders, who seem less attractive to them, are prepared for a worst-case scenario where they sign a stopgap player like Mac Jones or Jameis Winston at quarterback and go with him and Levis for 2025.
Yeah, again, we went through the Cam Ward thing today, and I didn't come away with like that they've told them there's no way.
So do you think that they are sitting there right now thinking that their quarterback is not do you think they think their quarterback's going to be Will Levis next year?
I think that they're out on Sam Darnold, and that's the takeaway from today. And I'm sorry, Jared, and if you need some tissue, then get some tissue.
Again,
but that's it. I would rather see them draft Cam Ward than go with Mac Jones and Will Levis.
I agree.
I'll be on your team there.
I agree, but my thing is like it is not like I think it's crazy that the Titans would do something stupid. The Titans hired Ran Carthon's subordinate to be the guy that replaces Ran. It doesn't make any sense. So, of course, the Titans might do something stupid because their history tells me that, just like their history tells me that they might lie, which you just completely ignore, even though all they ever do is lie. So I think this is a lie. I think their quarterback is either going to be Sam Darnold or Cam Ward because it makes no sense for anybody else to be their quarterback.
Okay, there you go. I hope it works out for you. More
Jared versus Joe next. I'm going to accompany 105 the game.
Big discussions.
What's the deal with this quad?
Bigger arguments.
I was right. I had my finger on the pulse of this team.
It's so dumb. It's time.
Oh, it was the cap. Cap.
For Jared versus Joe.
For you, this is actually kind of well reasoned.
Brought to you by First Horizon Bank. Big bank muscle. Small bank hustle. And by Pella Windows and Doors.
We make the rules around here now.
Now on Stillman and Company.
Let's get it on.
Caroline, go.
All right. Joe, you go first. Jared, you said the inevitability or the possibility, rather, of the Titans ending up with Cam Ward or Shadeur Sanders. What if the Titans don't end up with Sam Darnold or Cam Ward? And we're learning more and more about Mike Borgonzi as time goes on. But in his first draft, what will we learn about the Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker experiment if the Titans don't come away with Ward or Darnold?
It means they're willing to tank the season because that will be what they're doing. And it means that they do not care at all about Brian Callahan. And that will confirm what I said, which was Brinker didn't want to keep Callahan to begin with. They will make Callahan the fall guy for this. They'll fire him and all the coaches. And then next year they'll promise to be better. And I will say this, if they give Brian Callahan Mac Jones at quarterback, I don't know how we could hold this upcoming season against Callahan. And I'm not a Callahan guy. Like, I'm not convinced Callahan can coach, but if they end up without Cam Ward or without Sam Darnold and they put in Jameis Winston, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Jared Stillman, whomever at quarterback, it means to me that they're tanking the season. It means to me that they're punting the same way that Arizona punted in 2023. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not ready to give up on the season before it even starts. Do I expect the Titans to compete for the Super Bowl? No. Do I expect the Titans to win some games next year? Yes. But if you're putting Mac Jones in at quarterback, I'm going to have a hard time with that. If you're putting Daniel Jones in at quarterback, and let's see, Daniel Jones has a career record of 24, 44, and 1, and he's got 10 touchdowns and 13 picks in his last 16 games. I got a hard time with that one. So I will tell you that I think it is an immediate white flag on the season if they end up again with Will Levis back at quarterback, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Jameis Winston, etc. There are two options, and if they don't take one, they're setting Brian Callahan up to be the fall guy.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the question. The question was if they don't do this or don't do that. So if they don't do either of those, then to me, okay, so Aaron Rodgers, okay, so Shadeur Sanders.
Paul said they're out on Rodgers.
Okay, so Kirk Cousins. I mean,
oh Lord,
well, yeah. Look, I'm just saying
he makes $45 million. Sam Darnold at 28 is not good enough for $40 million, but Cousins at 35, coming off a torn Achilles and a season in which he led the NFL in interceptions, Cousins is the man at 45.
My point is, if they don't take one, go after Darnold or draft Cam Ward, then okay, then I can still see Shadeur Sanders. Again, I like Sanders better than Ward. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm just a TV prospect kind of guy. But if it is who Jared just mentioned, if it is a Mac Jones situation or something like that, then I would have to agree. I would have to agree that it's just like punting on next season. I mean, that's what that they're fine doing that, and that maybe they do have. I mean, this is the thing. I got an argument with PK today about the top of the draft next year, because I see no one who I feel great about being a top of the draft quarterback. Maybe Drew Aller puts it all together.
He sucks.
I mean, I don't think he sucks. He has traits. He has talent, but he has not put it all together. So if next year was one of those years where, again, like a couple years ago, it was like everybody knew it's going to be Caleb Williams and Drake May, and it's going to be a debate, and it's, and then, who knows who else, then that'd be one thing, but it's not that now. So I would not be impressed if that's what they do. To me, again, I'm with Jared on Darnold. I mean, we are aligned with Gentry Estes that I think it would be the best move that's available to them. And then after that, at least draft a guy, I guess, I wouldn't do that either. But otherwise, then you are punting on the season, and you're content doing that. It would also tell me they feel a certain level of security despite all the changes that have happened in this franchise.
I guess I should have been more blunt, and I guess it kind of hit me listening to this. But, like, you know, I think, again, we all agree that in a normal world with the number one pick, there are two options. It's Darnold or Ward, right? Joe, I heard you saying that today. Caroline, I don't want to assume for you, but I feel like you probably feel the same way. It's Darnold or Ward, right?
Darnold and Ward.
Okay. Trevor feels the same way. Tim feels the same way. They went yesterday on the program. They went with Darnold over Ward. Fitz, Darnold over Ward. Tim on the midday show, Darnold over Ward. Joe, Darnold over Ward. Jared, Darnold over Ward. Caroline?
Darnold over Ward, for sure.
Darnold over Ward. So if they end up just saying, oh, no, we're too good for Sam Darnold, and we're not going to take Cam Ward, and we're going to go with Mac Jones, doesn't that kind of tell us that they're stupid? Especially with an owner, you brought up the security angle of this, with an owner who is so irrational that, like, she will not be able to handle sitting up in the box next year, watching them get beat 41-3 by Jacksonville with Mac Jones at quarterback. She will not be able to handle that. So doesn't that, if they don't do this, doesn't it kind of say that they're stupid?
Well, if they draft Shadeur Sanders, then I wouldn't. You know, again, I'm not a big fan of either of these guys. Again, I need to know where they would go. I just need to know what the answer is. I guess yes. If it's Mac Jones and Will Levis, then yeah. I mean, I think that's probably fair.
I mean, Caroline, I want to circle back and answer the question by saying it would say that they're stupid. Would be my biggest take.
Is there another option out there?
I don't want to sound like Joe, but kind of define option for me. I'll answer.
Like,
no, there's not. It's Ward.
Like, is Russell Wilson an option?
No. So
is Jackson Dart an option?
I just don't know how you could trade the pick, then take Dart and say, this is the guy for sure, he's ready. I don't know. Maybe. I guess Dart could be an option. I think the thing with Dart is I think Dart's getting dinged because of Lane Kiffin being the coach. And
fair.
Mahomes got dinged because he played in the air raid offense, and a lot of guys had failed out of that. So maybe there's something they see in Dart that nobody else does. But again,
Dart also kind of seems like a pain in the ass.
I mean, you guys watch Dart more than I did in college football. Like, you think he's ready to start in the NFL?
I'm not a big fan.
So
I think he's kind of a crybaby.
So again, like, to me, there's two real options. Russell's a Band-Aid. Aaron's a Band-Aid. Daniel Jones, those guys are all reclamation. There's two guys. There's the legitimate first-round quarterback who, even though he's not a 1-1 quarterback, he's got a mid-first-round grade in Ward. And then there is Darnold, who is a legitimate starting quarterback and is 18-6 as a starter over the last 3 years. So there's two options, and if they don't take one of them, they're stupid. One texter in the text line says Hendon Hooker, Joe.
There we go. Now we're cooking.
Hendon Hooker would be third on my list of everybody that we've just talked about after, and I'm not even a big Ward guy, but Hendon Hooker might be second on my list. That's how bad, or third on my list. That's how bad it is. Caroline, last one.
You would take Hendon Hooker over Shadeur Sanders?
I think I would take Jackson Dart over Shadeur Sanders.
Man.
I think Shadeur Sanders, I think these reports about Shadeur Sanders are legit. I think he's entitled. I don't think he's that good.
Wait a minute. I thought you said it was all fake and it was just because he's a TV prospect. Were they legit or not?
No, the reports that are coming out since the media went to the combine and talked to the football people, and the media people said, oh, wow, instead of trying to kiss Deion's ass about how great he is, let's report what the NFL teams are telling us. And I think that Shadeur Sanders is probably arrogant and not that good. I think it's probably true.
Yeah, football media does a lot of Deion butt kissing, man. I mean, you need to get away from just watching Stephen A. Smith for your news and analysis. Seriously, please get away from that. I mean, football media kissing Deion's ass, that's actually hilarious.
I mean, I watched Louis Riddick last week say that he would take Cam Ward number one, and he had to preface it by talking about how good of friends he and Deion were and how he holds nothing against Deion but I would take Cam Ward number one. I'm like, oh, we gotta kiss Deion's ass before we say we wouldn't take his son.
So you're individually picking out his friends. I mean, he stopped answering questions from local reporters. It got so bad locally, let alone national media. Come on.
That's why they kissed the tush. Caroline? Who wins?
To be fair, he stopped taking questions from a local CBS reporter because CBS.com ranked him as like the 12th best coach in the Big 12.
Which, by the way, is kind of a hate because Dion is not that bad. Caroline, who wins this week?
Joe wins this week.
How?
Because
how?
The Shadeur take, to say he's just a TV prospect, I don't think is fair. If you want to get down to the nitty gritty of why Shadeur Sanders is as highly touted as a prospect as he is, obviously, yes, being Dion's son has something to do with it. But if Shadeur Sanders came out in last year's draft, we wouldn't be talking about him in the same way because there were so many other better quarterbacks. I think it's more so a factor that this is just not a very good quarterback draft. That
Who goes
Shadeur
first, him or
Sanders
Dart?
and Cam Ward.
Who goes first, him or Dart?
Sanders.
I will be fascinated. I really will be. I could see Sanders going 3, and I could see Sanders going like, what did Lance Zierlein have in his latest mock? Like 30th? I could see that. Either or.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 2021 draft where it was just Kenny Pickett in the first round and then all the other guys, the Matt Corrals and the Malik Willises.
Jordan Reed had him going number 2 overall to Detroit.
And but also I could see Shadeur Sanders going number 2 overall as well.
Congratulations, Joe. I don't understand how you won, but
thanks.
He is absolutely a TV prospect.
Not a TV prospect. Give him at least a little bit more credit.
Prospect. Just like Tim Tebow went in the first round. That's Jared versus Joe on the program. Stillman and Company. What do you have the game?
who would you say is going to be better 3 years from now, Sam Darnold or Cam Ward?
Well, here's how I would say this, and I've thought about this. Is why my position on the Vikings, that they should build around Sam Darnold rather than J.J. McCarthy is this. The bust rate at quarterback is brutal. It's brutal. And so you just think of first round draft picks at the quarterback position. It's not even a 50-50 proposition. And so when you have somebody that's thrown 35 touchdown passes in a season, like what that guy did is he just put a stake in the ground. He's like, look, I can do this.
There you go. That was Tim Hasselbeck on the midday show yesterday. So Tim Hasselbeck says Darnold over Ward. Ian, I'm going to put you on the spot. Darnold or Ward?
For the Titans? Well, I mean, you have a better chance to win next year with Darnold.
Who's going to be better over the next 3 years?
Over the next 3 years? I'll still give it to Darnold.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to take Ward. I mean, to get the ceiling of Darnold, it might take longer than a couple of years.
Okay, so Jared, Caroline, Joe Rexroad, Ian, Tim Hasselbeck, Trevor Maddich, Jason Fitz on the show earlier today, and Gentry Estes all agree. Gentry wrote in the Tennessean this morning before Paul reported the Titans are out on Sam Darnold, quote, "The Tennessee Titans plan at quarterback should be simple. Go get Sam Darnold. New general manager Mike Borgonzi has the means to fix the Titans quarterback problem this offseason. What's sorely lacking, however, is the supply to meet demand. This, therefore, is ceasing to be complicated for the Titans," Gentry writes. Go, period, get, period, Darnold. Period. He's their best option. He might be the only good option. That is unless, Gentry writes, the Titans want to spend that number 1 pick on Cam Ward. I could get behind that, but Ward would be a lot riskier than Darnold, who just won 14 games in Minnesota while throwing for 4,319 yards and 35 touchdowns. So me, Gentry, Joe, Fitz, Caroline, Ian, Tim Hasselbeck, Trevor Maddich. I mean, I think this has got to be like a station-wide question now. Sam Darnold or Cam Ward? Everybody is saying Sam Darnold. But the Titans know better, and the Titans are going to go the route of Jameis Winston or Mac Jones or run it back with Will Levis. And so once I get to that point where it makes no sense to anybody, Joe and I never agree on anything. So the fact that Joe and I are agreeing on that, and Caroline agrees, and Ian agrees, and Tim agrees, and it's like, oh, who's got a big football background? Tim Hasselbeck. He's a coach. He's doing well at Innsworth. Tim Hasselbeck agrees. It tells me either the Titans are lying, which I think is very possible, that the Titans are lying, or that the Titans are completely incompetent, which is also possible. But I can't believe that the Titans, with a new guy in there who doesn't seem to be that stupid, could be this stupid. So it almost makes me wonder when I hear people say, well, they'd like Darnold at 30 million, but they wouldn't like Darnold at 40 million. In a world where Jordan Love gets 55, Darnold is better than Jordan Love. In a world where Jordan Love gets 55, you will not give Sam Darnold 40. It almost makes me wonder if Amy is tightening the screws on the spending. That's like, no. Building a new stadium, even though I'm getting everybody else to pay for most of it, I'm still building a new stadium, so we're not going to be able to buy a real quarterback this year. So go get Mac Jones and see what happens. And I really feel like that's where this is trending. I really feel it. Again, last year, Sam Darnold was better in almost every stat than Jordan Love, except for interceptions where Jordan Love threw 1 less and played 2 less games. That's it. Everything else, Darnold was better. Head-to-head, Darnold better. So maybe Amy's just like, we're not spending any money this year. Maybe. Who knows? 615-737-1025, Stillman & Company, 1025 The Game. Stillman and company on the program, and I will just say, I'm sure if Paul's report is right, that the Titans are out on Sam Darnold. They're too cheap for Sam Darnold. And again, I cannot imagine the hard on these guys had for talking about what? That these guys had for talking about adding draft picks. Everybody went into the combine saying the Titans were looking to trade the pick back. And now all of a sudden everyone's talking about how great Cam Ward is and how the Giants, they think the Giants are going to trade up to be able to take the pick. So if they trade back and they don't get Sam Darnold because they're too cheap and they don't get Cam Ward because they want the picks and they end up with, Jameis Winston or Mac Jones or somebody like that, if that ends up being the case, I cannot imagine how Brian Callahan felt if they sat there in a meeting room and discussed it. But they probably talked to Brian Callahan so little when it comes to the roster that he probably found out through Paul the same way everybody else did. And this organization will not get it figured out until they realize the coach needs to coach and the GMs and the evaluators need to evaluate, but they still need to work together. That's it for us. We're out of here. We're live at Bridgestone Arena where the Preds play Seattle tomorrow. We'll be there at 2:00. Preds Insiders. Everything must go sale at the Predators. That's right. I hope that's next.